This is Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily with Andrew Hustler Paterson and Michael Remis.
Hey, what's going on, gang? Welcome to another edition of Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. We are absolutely packed today. Really looking forward to it. Huge game tonight. Oilers and Avalanche, and Ken Wiebe. Wiebe's World is in Denver. He's going to join us post-morning skate a little bit later on in the program. And we're also going to be kicking off the program. I cannot wait for this, actually. A guy that was very popular, a teammate, and was a hell of a fun interview back during his time with the Winnipeg Jets. Anthony Bitetto is going to join the program. We'll catch up a little bit on him, get some insight into his former team, the New York Rangers, and their big win last night. We'll have that coming up in about 20 minutes to get things started. NBA Finals do start tonight as well. We'll do a quick preview towards the end of the program with Julian Edlow of DraftKings. And I'm also looking forward to bring on our old pal, Mr. Dubsy, talk a little golf and get the reaction from the golf world on Dustin Johnson leaving the PGA Tour, by all accounts, to go play for $125 million reportedly on the Live Golf Tour. What that means for the Canadian Open and, the scuttlebutt around the golf world now that this Saudi Golf League seems to be going ahead. So going to be a real fun show. We are packed. Great to have you with us. For podcast listeners, I don't say this enough, but if you ever have the opportunity of giving us a 5-star rating and a review at Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it's greatly appreciated by us, helping us spread the channel. And, of course, for everyone watching on YouTube, hit that red subscribe button and the thumbs up as well. Always appreciated by your boys here at WST. A big thanks to the sponsors that make this show happen each and every day. Coolbet Canada, Canadian Club Whiskey, Assiniboia Downs, the Nick and Nicky DQ Group, Boston Pizza, Princess Auto, Little Brown Jug, Not AutoCorp, Breezy Bend, Royal Sports, Manitoba Battery, Culligan Water, Vita Health Fresh Market, F Apparel, Wallace & Wallace, and, of course, our friends over at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. Let's get this thing going and welcome in Michael Remis before a busy afternoon of guests on WST. What's going on?
Yeah, this is going to be a busy one. Looking forward to have former Jet on the program and Anthony Bitetto and Ken Wiebe, who is in Denver ahead of the Western Conference Finals. So I'm feeling good. It's Thursday, heading towards the weekend, and I guess though it's not raining outside, right? I'm looking outside your window there, Huss. It looks pretty good.
No, it's quite windy, though. I will say that. Quite windy. That was a part of the festivities last night at the ballpark. I know the wind was playing, as was as down at the soccer pitch. Tough one. I'll actually just get quickly to that. I mean, the Goldeyes back at home right now, taking on Cleburne. Tough loss for the lads over at IG Field, though. I think a big opportunity for Valor FC to get a big 3 points at home against Atletico Ottawa. I believe that was the team they put up half a dozen against earlier this season on the road, but they lost 1-0 last night. Tonight, not probably a great night for getting out to the ballpark, although, hey, just bundle up. It's always a great night, but it looks like it's going to be sunny for the next few days. So with the Goldeyes back at home, certainly a good time to go out and check out the ballpark, craft beer corner, and maybe try a Little Brown Jug while you're down there, as well as, of course, our friends at Little Brown Jug, available at the ballpark all season long. But Reem, listen, we're going to talk about the Avalanche and the Oilers a little bit later on with Ken Wiebe. Certainly we'll hit that in the Coolbet lines. What a performance last night by the New York Rangers. And we'll ask Anthony Bitetto about his former team, what he thought about that. I know he's a lifelong New York guy, was a Ranger fan, so he'll be excited about it. But if you're a Ranger fan or had a little bit of scratch on the Rangers, you got to be pretty happy with the way that series started. Just a dominating performance. Very impressive from top to bottom. 6-2 was the final. The youngsters really stood out to me last night. That line of Lafreniere, Capocacco, and Philip Cheadle doing some real damage. And once again, Igor Shesterkin, excuse me, showing that, he's in the conversation for the best in the world, and no one better to do that against than Vasilevsky, who I thought, made some huge saves last night. But my God, the Rangers were creating, and the seam passes and chances they got off those were, listen, those are going in more often than not. Doesn't matter who's in the net. And Rangers get first blood last night on home ice.
Yeah, we kind of thought that was a possibility. We had mentioned some numbers that the team with the long layoff actually hasn't done well and lost the last 7 series, which was crazy. You wouldn't think that would be like that, but we did, again, as I mentioned yesterday, experience that firsthand when we all thought the Jets were going to tear up Montreal, and of course, they didn't last year. And the Rangers, they're hot. They have the goalie who can compete with Vasilevsky. And you look at their team, we didn't really think of them as that deep of a team before, but Frank Vatrano is looking like a really strong deadline ad. Maybe Florida wishes they would have had him last series when they couldn't score against Tampa, and here he is performing for the Rangers with,
it's
Chris
funny you say that. I just saw a tweet from one of the Bleacher Report guys go, imagine being a Florida Panthers fan and your team spent 3 first-round picks to load up and go all in and beat the Tampa Bay Lightning. You score 3 goals in that series, get swept, and then the guy you let go to make room for some of those players, Frank Vatrano, scores a big goal last night against the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, and Vatrano's always been a guy who can score. He's got a good shot, and he's playing with some skilled guys right now in Zibanejad and Kreider. And Kreider's having this huge breakout season, Zibanejad as well. But then they have the second line. Strome, Panarin have been fitting very well. But you mentioned it was the third line, Lafreniere, Hedl, and Kakko, all former first-round picks, skilled guys, making an impact on the third line, gives you that depth scoring. And you talk about those guys, all former first-round picks. A couple, one of them number 1, Kakko also top pick. Keandre Miller, another former first-rounder, making an impact for the Rangers. And what you saw, former Norman Norris Trophy winner Adam Fox with some beautiful passing as well. They're good, man. Watch out, Tampa. And, we've said Tampa, they're 2-time defending Cup champions. We forget that it wasn't easy for them to even get to the final. The Islanders taking them to 7 last year, and I wonder if we're going to see 7 again here tonight. And for all of us who thought this was going to be a low-scoring affair, scoring is up this year in the NHL. We're not seeing those low-scoring games, and we've definitely seen it here in the conference final.
Yeah, listen, I wasn't expecting 8 goals last night. I kind of thought that, especially the way Tampa can beat you any way you want. Tampa can score with the best teams in the league, but it's interesting you mentioned the New York Islanders. Let's think back to Game 7. Wasn't that 1-0? Tampa is the game, and this is why I felt so confident about them against Florida. So that Florida can win the back and forth games where there's tons of scoring and tons of chances. But were they set up to win those tight playoff games that, you don't have a lot of room, you don't have a lot of space? And I wasn't convinced on it. And obviously the goaltending certainly favors the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think they probably would love to get into a few more of those games, particularly with Braden Point out right now. And I guess we can't overstate that loss. It didn't seem like it hurt them very much against Tampa. But John Cooper said, don't expect Braden Point back for the Eastern Conference Finals. And listen, if New York is getting this sort of scoring that they are right now from the Panarin line and then the youngsters, as we just mentioned, obviously Chris Kreider is still an absolutely devastating player. Tampa's going to need to score some goals. They can't put it all on their goaltender, and I don't think that they will. But to your point, Remo, I got to thank you, and of course thank Justin Bourne, but thank you for pointing out that tweet yesterday, because if I did not know that the last 7 times a team that just went 7 played a team that had just swept, that the team that went 7 was 7-0, I probably would have been on Tampa last night. However, I did wait. We talked about it yesterday on the program. If you still like Tampa, yeah, you can get them at plus money now for the series. Rangers are a minus 120 favorite after that big win last night, as you would expect, with a 1-0 lead in a best of 7.
Yeah, those Vasilevsky numbers, they're going to get tested, and we know his record as well when they can eliminate an opponent. We'll see if that comes into play. We talk about goaling. Check out these numbers from Shesterkin here in the last couple games as I pull them up. Here we go. Thank you, NHL.com. I mean, each game, he's allowed one. Look at his save percentage, 968. We had the 912, whatever. But then 949, 949, 949. So 949 save percentage in his last 3 games. He's allowed, 2 in each of those games. And if your team scores more than 2, well, you're in pretty good there. And the Rangers have certainly been able to do that. Very talented team. And, for the crowd who said, they only scored all their goals against third-string goalies in the first 2 rounds, they're taking an L here because you played one of the best ones in the league yesterday. It didn't seem to be a problem, but, I think we can agree that, we've mentioned those numbers of the team coming off the long layoff versus the team who went 7. We'll see how Tampa looks in game 2. I think they'll come back. The series definitely not over, but I think the Rangers are going to put up a good fight here.
Hey, here's one for the chat. For those of you that are with us on YouTube, listen, we were talking about it for 2 series. I think most of us here are invested in the success of the Winnipeg Jets. We're hoping to see the Rangers win 2 rounds and turn that second rounder into a first rounder. That, of course, came to fruition. Now that the Rangers have won the 2 series and there's nothing more to be gained from the Jets, are there some newfound Ranger fans? Are you guys going for the Rangers in this series and in the playoffs remaining? Listen, I think of the 4 teams, they certainly had the longest odds because of the fact that they have to go through Tampa and then potentially, the winner of Colorado or Edmonton. But I am interested if people are riding with the Rangers still after they've taken care of business for the Winnipeg Jets, or whether they're on someone else. I know there is, and we hear this all the time, Reem, some people that are just saying, well, I guess I'm going for Edmonton because they're the Canadian team. I don't know. I've never subscribed to that. I don't want any Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup before the Jets. I would love the Jets to be the team that broke the streak. And God knows, it's been nice to see the Oilers have some success in the Battle of Alberta. There was going to be one of those Canadian teams coming out one way or the other. But I don't want to have to hear from another fan base about that they were the team that brought the cup back to Canada. I'd be more than happy if the Avalanche or the Lightning won again, or the New York Rangers, as opposed to having to hear about it from our friends in Edmonton over and over and over again. But again, I could be in some of the minority, although I have a feeling that's just somewhat of a split take.
I put out a poll. Who are you cheering for, Rangers or Lightning? 59% Rangers so far. So maybe I'll do one with all 4 teams, but I was on team 3-peat. I kind of wanted to see the Lightning 3-peat, but now the Rangers, they've won game 1. Maybe I can hop over to them. I do like when the Rangers are successful, and we've seen that in the Lundqvist, era when they went to the Cup final and they had playoff team year after year. I think it's good for, good for the NHL when New York is in. People get fired up. They're in a major market, and you saw the 94, how fired up they were as well when they won. So I think maybe I could be talked into the Rangers here. They're playing very well, and of course Andrew Kopp, former Jet, and Jacob Trouba as well. And I think there are some Kopp fans in chat, as I have seen.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, Andrew Kopp was a phenomenal player for the Winnipeg Jets and did so much for this, for this team. And I think everyone knew that there was a good chance that he was going to be dealt based on the 1-year contract last summer. That wasn't the plan. The plan was to be playing for the Jets in the playoffs. When it wasn't the case, they did it. We've talked a lot about the return for the deal. Doug Phil asking in chat, and this is actually a good point. The Jets get a higher first-round pick if the Rangers lose this round, right? I mean, we're not talking about a huge difference, but yes, the difference that that pick that the Jets get from the Rangers is going to be anywhere from 29 to 32. If they win the Cup, it's 32. If they lose the Cup final, it's 31. And if they lose this round, it is 29 or 30, depending on the point total of the team that loses in the Western Conference Finals. So, I mean, yeah, I guess technically you could be talking about the difference of 3 spots one way or the other. But if you just assume that you're in that run, you can let us know whether you're still riding with the New York Rangers. One thing was interesting, Remis, and I kind of figured that this would be the case at the end of the game. Tampa is always a team that when they're losing, especially when a game like this earlier in the series, tries to make somewhat of a statement. And I think we saw exactly why Gerard Gallant loves the acquisition of Ryan Reaves as much as he does, because that guy was out to patrol the ice in the third period. And, it was a borderline getting crazy there right at the end. And Pat Maroon got in. And Maroon, I think, maybe got his life saved by that linesman. I was stunned that he didn't get out of the way and just let them go. But it did end up with that hilarious picture of Reaves on top of Maroon with a linesman in between him. And then Reaves with the smirk on his face afterwards, knowing that not only did they get the win, but this was going to look really good on television and he'd have a lot more to chirp about going into game 2. Not surprising that it ended with some sort of fisticuffs, although the referees and the linesmen did everything they could to prevent it from getting crazy.
Yeah, look at this picture on screen here. Sorry, podcast listeners, but yeah, there's a linesman sandwich in between Ryan Reaves and Patrick Maroon, an old-fashioned dog pile, and Ryan Reaves. I mean, you've seen videos on social media throughout the playoffs, him reading out the lineup card or being the last guy off the ice and dancing all the way to the dressing room after they won Game 7 against Carolina. I don't know, Ryan Reaves and Gerard Gallant in the conference final reminds me of when they were on the Vegas Golden Knights together, and we all remember Ryan Reaves' performance here in, was it Game 5 of the West final? Is that, you remember? Do you remember that one, or did you block that out of your
no recollection whatsoever
memory?
But I just remembered. Well, the funny thing is, you mentioned that series. Like, I think the Ranger fans are feeling the way Jet fans did after game number 1. You host it. You've got home ice in the conference finals. You have a convincing win in game number 1, and you walk outside going, guys, we could be going to the Cup final.
Yeah.
Well, we know how it ended for the Winnipeg Jets. And I don't think there's much real overconfidence amongst the Rangers fans. I think they obviously are pumped that they've got this win, but they know, I mean, they're going up against the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs. The Jets were going up against a first-year expansion team. So I think the expectations maybe were much higher here in Winnipeg. That being said, this is exactly the situation that they are in. Jacob Trouba remembers it. Andrew Kopp remembers it. So we'll see whether they can have a different result when through these next 4 games than what happened to the Jets against Vegas. Although, to be honest with you, I still wouldn't be surprised if Tampa all of a sudden woke up, got the win on the road, and came back and ran away with this series in 5 or 6.
Yeah, I guess if you needed another reason to cheer for the Rangers, you do have the Winnipeg content in Ryan Reaves. So, but yeah, not over. I think this is going for a while, and I think if you're a Ranger fan, you're excited, but you have to know who you're going up against. And Tampa, they've been in the playoffs many times. Vasilevsky's record after a loss. So, well, we'll wait for the next game. When is that? Tomorrow, Friday?
Yep.
Yeah,
exactly.
So and we got the other one tonight. Colorado, Edmonton. Ken's there in Denver, he had the morning skate. No Darcy Kemper for Colorado's.
Pavel Francouz. Listen, we're going to spend a lot more time on this with Ken a little later on. I like Edmonton tonight. I think Edmonton wins this game. And to be honest, the lack of Kemper, this could really be impactful. And I know we've talked, the Flames, or for crying out loud, the Oilers have given up 9 and 8 in their last 2 game ones, although they came back with real strong performances and wins in game 2. So they'll certainly be looking to do that tonight. I've got concerns about Francouz. I'm not even too sure who the third stringer is if Darcy Kemper can't go. But it's going to be a great series. Going to be a lot of goals. I will not be taking the under in any of these games for the Western Conference Final. But we'll talk about it more and get the latest from Ken Wiebe a little later on. I see I'm getting chirped in the chat. I know Waiters said, yeah, Tom Brady with another win over Patrick Mahomes. Did anybody see the match last night?
Was it on?
Really cool.
Did we get it here? I didn't watch it.
Okay, so we did get it here, but most of us only, I don't know when the last time I watched a channel that wasn't on HD. I think it would be a long time ago. For whatever reason, because that was a TNT broadcast, it was on headline news.
We get that
here. Well, you do get it, but you don't get it in HD. Like, I had to go through all the single-digit numbers, and it was on, I don't know, channel 30 or 32 or something like that. I think one year before they had it on CNN International, I guess I'm shocked that, one of the Sportsnet or TSN stations didn't pick it up and throw it on, because it was a really good production. JJ Watt and Barkley were doing the commentary for it. And I'll say this is what we can take out of it. Josh Allen was terrible, and he even tweeted out, how's your back after carrying me around the entire day? Mahomes, I saw a great grid of the 4 players, and it was basically putting who would be a good hang, like a good guy to hang out with, and who would be a good golfer. And the result was Mahomes was in the top right corner as the good hang and great golfer. Brady was the not so good golfer, great hang. Aaron Rodgers was the good golfer, guy you probably wouldn't want to hang around with for 4.5 hours. And poor Josh Allen was in the bad hang and bad golfer category. And it was fun, though. There was a lot of good back and forth. There were some great shots. I mean, Mahomes and Allen were down 2-0 after the first 2 holes, and I thought this was going to get ugly. And in maybe the most relatable moment of the entire event, down 2 on the 3rd tee, Patrick Mahomes grabbed his first beer of the round, said that he had to do something to get it turned around. He was originally planning on waiting till the 4th hole and promptly went out and birdied the next hole. The guys are having some fun, saying that he acquired the swing juice and was back. But overall, these events are fun. The broadcast is great. But for those of you that think this was on Brady, this was Aaron Rodgers stepping up big at the end, and poor Patrick just not being able to carry that massive, massive load of Josh Allen on his shoulders. But anyways, fun event. Hopefully they'll do it again sometimes. And I don't know about you, Reem. Like, it was neat when they had, Phil and Tiger involved, or Bryson DeChambeau. I'm almost preferring not to have the pro golfers in there and just have pro athletes, top athletes. Like, I'd love to see something like this with, some of the top players in the National Hockey League or even baseball, because you really do get a chance to sort of see what these guys are about, and get a little more insight into their personalities that you don't get to from games and just the stock press conferences that we usually hear these guys talking about.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair. I mean, you can see a top golfer golf anytime. Maybe you like that interaction, but I think it's more about the personalities. Like, no one really actually cares if these guys are good at golf. You want to see some smack talk and some funny stuff and some personality. So yeah, I think golf is definitely secondary.
Oh man, Tom Brady's trophy case going at me in the chat. Doesn't matter us, a win's a win. Well, that is exactly right. And yeah, Mike Wynn, no HLN, no murder mysteries. I guess they're the 18-hour marathon of the whodunit stories they usually have on that had to take a break for the match last night. Hey, the other thing that and we haven't probably spent enough time on this as we should have over the course of the last week, Remo. The Jays getting it done again. And that's 7 in a row last night. And maybe the most incredible thing about this is Vladdy had a home run late in the game, but, I'd still struggled at the plate early on. The Jays are being carried right now by the catcher position. Alejandro's unite. Alejandro Kirk with a couple homers the night before. Danny Jansen getting it done last night. And, even with Ryu, who's got some issues with his arm that they're worried about and going to do some more tests on. 7 in a row. Bats are getting going right now, and there's a real good buzz around this team. Frankly, the buzz that we've been waiting for since the start of the season, with their sort of pedestrian start. But the Jays are hot right now.
Yeah, we were kind of waiting for this. They got off to a slow start. As you said, the bats were not there. They had some injuries, but they're going for 8 tonight. Alek Manoah against Johnny Cueto. Manoah hasn't allowed more than 3 runs in a start, and he's the guy you're looking to take that step forward if you want to, go far into the playoffs. So I know it's June 1st and there's a lot of baseball to play, but I think you ought to be excited about a 7-game win streak here.
Yeah, so, and that's an afternoon game as well. So we'll keep you up to date on that throughout the afternoon. White Sox, Jays starting at 2. And yeah, my old buddy Johnny Cueto. I'm a big Cueto guy. He was so good for the Royals in 2015 when he got traded there and they won the World Series. But I'll tell you what, Manoah is the showstopper right now. 5-1 Ream with a 1.77 ERA. And I know this just because my pal Coolbet Chris always consistently bets the over on strikeouts every time he starts. He's gassing a lot of batters as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to needed him to step up, this year as a young pitcher. And again, going up against Cueto, 5-1 record. Funny, the Jays on this hot streak, still 5 games back of the Yankees, 2.5 back on the wild card, 8-2 in their last 10. That run differential finally, in the positive, they're +4. So teams, got off to a slow start, but the bats are coming around for the Jays, and we'll be following it as we go on this summer.
You got it. Rob Mahoney, I miss Battle of the Network Stars. Wow, that's a blast from the past. Yeah, if you're young enough that you don't know what we're talking about, get onto YouTube after the show and just put in Battle of the Network Stars and see some of the wild stuff they had back in the 80s with some of the top athletes from sports around the world. All right, we've got a lot of hockey to talk about. Ken Wiebe will join us in about 25 minutes or so, live from Denver. He was at the morning skates tonight. We'll get Ken's thoughts on the Stanley Cup playoffs, talk a little Jets and more. But coming up in just a second, going to hook up with former Winnipeg Jet and New York Ranger Anthony Bitetto, see what he's up to these days, have a few laughs, and get his thoughts on his former team with their big win last night in the conference finals. Just before we do that, big shout out to our friends over at Aikens Lake Wilderness Lodge. I keep on looking at the Instagram feeds. Make sure to follow them, by the way, at Aikens Lake and on Twitter. Pulling some monsters out earlier in the season. They're going to be incredibly busy this year. There is a limited amount of availability a couple times this year, but maybe it's a great time to get planning for a once-in-a-lifetime 5-star trip fly-in fishing right here in Manitoba for next season. Find out more on everything Aikens Lake can do for you, whether it's a family trip, a corporate outing, at aikenslake.com and at Aikens Lake on all your social channels. We'll be out there later on this summer and hopefully coming back with many great stories and many great picks of some monster fish with our friends out at Aikens Lake. Hey, our gang over at Wallace & Wallace continues to be Winnipeg's leader in fencing and overhead doors. You've seen their fences and trucks all over the city. I've been serving this area since 1946. And hey, if you need the security and protection of a new fence, or if winter did a number on your old one, give them a call. They got vinyl, ornamental, welded wire, chain link, or wood fences, whatever you need. And heck, if you need a new garage door, they've also got Winnipeg's largest selection of overhead garage doors. An expert can come down at a time you arrange to give you a free estimate. Pop down and see them at their showroom on Lawson Road off Keniston, or find out more at wallacefences.com. Getting ready for the Rady dinner coming up. We had the Zach on yesterday talking about interviewing Emmett Smith with Matt Leibel. I'm really looking forward to that. Of course, that's a perfect example of some of the things that are back. We're going to need to look good on. Throw the suits. And if you need a new suit, if you haven't worn one through the pandemic and it's time to step it up, get on down to F Apparel. Talk to Andrew and the gang about a custom suit starting at just $400. The best spot in Winnipeg to get a great deal and look great. And they've also been the headquarters for so many weddings for the number of years. 15% off for the wedding party if you get your suits at F Apparel. Find out more online at fepapparel.com. Pop up and make an appointment to come down for a fitting. And, of course, you can also visit them in person down at 190 Smith Street. And a big shout-out to the gang over at Vita Health, keeping us healthy and keeping us ready for a fun summer. Vita Health has great prices on Winnipeg's best selection of natural and organic supplements, beauty products, and groceries. Delicious lunch options like Vita Market salad, soup, sandwiches, and more at the Grab and Go Deli, and amazing healthy options for the barbecue, including lean bison steaks or chicken. And hey, if you can't make it into one of their 7 stores, visit their brand new fully shoppable website at myvita.ca to buy online or schedule a delivery with Instacart. 7 Winnipeg locations, including the newest store in Linden Ridge, and online at myvita.ca. All right, Ken Wiebe in Denver coming up in a few minutes, but first, let's welcome back to the program Anthony Bitetto on Winnipeg Sports Talk. What is going on?
Not much, man. I appreciate it. Glad I get the opportunity to come out here and hang out with you guys and, let's talk a little smack, enjoy it, and have some fun with this.
No doubt. You know what? Hey, let's first up catch up. I know a lot of people be interested to know. You were playing with the Rangers this year. Actually, got dealt at the deadline over to San Jose. Fill us in a little bit on the season and how things went with getting that weird call for any player at the deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, for me, it was a dream to play with the Rangers. So when I signed there 2 years ago, I had that opportunity. It was a blessing. It was something it was a dream of mine to put on that jersey. So when I had that opportunity, I was a full throttle into it. So fast forward a little bit, I have a good year. The COVID happens and the season's kind of like all over the place. But, we had the whole Wilson incident with him going after Panarin. And the team kind of was shaken up a little bit in the summer. They brought some new guys in. They had a lot of young guys. So went into training camp, and my mindset was to try to make the team and do what I've done for the last 10 years playing this game. Things didn't work out so well for myself, but I get sent down to Hartford, and my mindset was to get back with that team as fast as possible. I wind up getting hurt, and that was kind of like the little turning point in the year where it's kind of like a little downhill slope. I finally recover, get back. The team's doing really well in Hartford. I'm enjoying hockey and, playing a little more offense in the American League, not more defending as much. And then I'm out to lunch on trade deadline day, not even paying attention to it. And my dad calls me and he's like, I just saw your name on ESPN. You got traded to San Jose. I'm like, holy, what a league. I love this. So sure enough, we get home. My agent calls me. San Jose called me. And, that was it. I was on a plane the next day to out west and check out California and the weather.
How was it?
It was tough. It was good. Like, the experience was good. That was my first Cali team. Met some good people, some good coaching. But the team was kind of struggling. I don't think we didn't win a game when I was there, and hopefully that's not a pinpoint of me. But overall, it was it was a tough experience, but it was a good experience.
I want to ask you about the Rangers, obviously in the playoffs right now, but you mentioned, playing a little bit more offensively. I mean, you had 4 with Hartford, you had 2 with the Barracuda, but I wanted to ask you about the goal you scored with the New York Rangers, because if anyone has seen this goal, and we maybe have to get the clip afterwards, we'll show it.
We for sure have to put the clip up.
You reminded me of Nikolai Ehlers. I mean, it was you had the puck, did almost 2 full revolutions in the offensive zone, and then it somehow went in. And I remember you speaking afterwards. Obviously, it was a big goal. You were fired up to get one for your team. But am I not mistaken? The last 3 times you'd actually scored in the National Hockey League, it had been disallowed for some reason or a challenge?
Yeah. So 1 was in Winnipeg. The third one was in Winnipeg. Then I had 2 in Nashville. And I remember after scoring, I literally got back to the bench and I was just, please drop the puck, because if this gets turned back, then I am not scoring ever again. I was so focused. And it happened to be that Peter Laviolette was the coach on Washington, and I had him in Nashville, and I'm just praying that Lavi doesn't challenge this. And sure enough, the puck drops. I'm like, wow, I just scored an unbelievable goal for the New York Rangers. So it was a moment I'll never forget.
Anthony, listen, I mean, obviously you're not with the organization right now, but still close with a number of players on that team. And, being a team I'm sure you're paying close attention to. What have you thought about this run so far to the conference finals and the big win last night to get a 1-0 lead over the defending champs?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I said to Drew, the GM, when he traded me. I was like, you know what, you gave me an opportunity to be a Ranger, and you're going to have a fan for life, because, I mean, I grew up a Ranger fan. No matter if I'm playing this game forever or coaching or whatever, I'll always be a New York Ranger fan. Like I said, I got to wear that uniform. So anyway, about them, their message in training camp was that it was no quit. And that's their slogan right now. No matter what the situation is, you can come back from it and you can keep pushing. And they've shown that. Round 1, they were down 3-1 against a great team, Pittsburgh, a team that's been there, done that. And they get the job done. Carolina, a team that was favorited. They go to 7-2 series in a row and get it done. And then they come out last night and they look unbelievable. Like, I think that was their best game overall as a team. You could tell that they're hungry for something. The kid line that everyone's talking about was dominant again. And Igor's Igor. When Igor's on, that team can beat anybody any single night.
Yeah, I mean, Shesterkin, and listen, what was, I think, the most impressive was the way they picked him up when he didn't have a great first round. steeled himself, and then obviously, I mean, the back and forth with the team like the Canes, and then winning on the road in Game 7 shows that they're ready for prime time. And of course, your old teammate here in Winnipeg, Andrew Kopp's having a pretty nice start to his time in New York. He's the toast of the Big Apple now.
Oh yeah, he's been phenomenal. I mean, I knew once he was going to get there, and he was playing with Stroman and Panarin, that he was going to excel. He's an unbelievable player, brilliant mind. I mean, he learned a lot from Scheif. I remember that in Winnipeg. Those two worked every single day on stuff. And it's good to see. I remember Copper called me the day he got traded, and I was like, I'm going west, and he's coming east. I'm like, maybe I'll pass you in the airport, but otherwise you're going to enjoy it. It's a good team, and sure enough, he's been a huge impact for them.
This is a team that's been on a bit of a rebuild over the last couple seasons, but I'd imagine that and really this would be the same, I'm sure, with the Knicks or the Giants or maybe even the Jets if they ever get their act together. I mean, if you're winning in New York, and goes to, let's say, with, something like the Yankees, but I mean, the Rangers, we saw the atmosphere in MSG last night. We see the love for that team. It's probably a pretty good spot to be on a team that's having some success, especially come playoff time.
Oh, there's no better city in the world to do that. And for all major sports, the Giants, the Yankees, I can't stand the Jets, so we'll leave them out. But even the Knicks, I remember 2 years ago when the Knicks were in the playoffs, they won Game 2, and you would have thought they won the NBA championship. The city was rocking. We're leaving it was the Trae Young game when they were screaming "F you, Trae Young" or whatever. It was a blast. I mean, that's New York. When you're winning, you're as tall as the Empire State Building. When you're not, you're in the subway. You're struggling in New York.
If they're going to get this done and beat Tampa, I mean, you're going up against, you're slaying the dragon, if you will, of the National Hockey League. I mean, I think it's obvious they need to do more of what they did last night. But from a guy that's played against them, I mean, what is it about the Tampa Bay Lightning? And the fact that they've won back-to-backs, does that make it even more of a challenge knowing that you're going over a team that's won it? Or does it maybe help a team like the Rangers because they know this is the test right now? We're getting our shot at the it's like a title fight. We're getting a shot at the belt, and it brings out the best in a team that is an underdog like New York.
For sure. I think the title fight concept is the perfect analogy, because you go out, you have a great call to round 1, game 1, you win round 1. But the biggest thing for New York is you can't take round 2 off. You can't take that third game off. These are games that you have to almost exceed even more, come even hungrier than what you're doing. So I think the biggest thing for them is just to stay the course. Don't get too high, because you had a great game 1 win. The Garden's going to be rocking. You don't have to worry about that. Just go out there and do what you've been doing and enjoy it. That you enjoy those times, and that's when success happens.
Hey, let me ask you just before we move on from the Rangers about a couple of players on the team. One's a former Jet, and Jacob Trouba, who had another monster season and is maybe one of the most dangerous players out to be on the ice at the same time. And Adam Fox, who is a bit of a revelation. I think a lot of people out west that don't get to see a lot of the Rangers are maybe surprised about, the season he had last year. But I mean, you would have been in a lot of meetings, playing a lot of games, practicing with these guys. Tell us about the defenseman that Trouba has turned into, and just what a special player Adam Fox is.
So Trouba, I hit it off with Troubs right away. He was, an older guy when I got there, and he was there already. And the way he carries himself, the way he prepares for games, he's a true pro. He's a guy that, as a young kid like Foxy and those guys, they're going to look up to. He's a great example of that. And then I think he took a step this year. The Rangers don't have a captain currently, someone who wears the C, but there's 3 or 4 of those guys that took steps. I'm talking Zibanejad, Panarin, Trouba, Kreider. Those are all guys that could wear the C, and I think they're doing a hell of a job teaching those young kids how to be pros. And it's starting to show. The way he's hitting guys, though, in the playoffs, he's on a mission. He wants to be the strongest, the hardest to play against D-man. And that's a huge step for them. And I think it's rubbing off on other guys. You see Miller starting to throw the body more. I think Lindy's been very solid, strong, and I think he's, seems like he's fighting through some injuries right now. But it's a good step for them. And Foxy I played with some pretty damn good D. Yossi, these guys, and then you see Foxy and the way I got a funny story I got to tell you about Foxy, actually. So Foxy's a Long Island kid, obviously, you know this. And so my buddy Justin, we run a men's league team in the summer when I was in Long Island. So we call up. He goes, and I don't know Adam Fox at this point. So Foxy comes down to the game, sitting in the locker room. He's got his Harvard hockey bag. This is before he's even played an NHL game. And he's out there just moping around. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? Like, where did you find this guy? He's like, my buddy Justin's like, he's going to play in the NHL one day. I'm like, in the NHL? This guy can't even play out in men's league. So this might discredit my scouting career, but I couldn't believe it because he turned into he's one of the best. I'd say he's a top 3 defenseman between Yost, Makar, and him. It's incredible how poised he is with the puck and how much he can dominate a game just with his style of play. It's impressive to watch.
You didn't quite have the game face on for the Long Island Beer League Midsummer Classic with Anthony Bitetto and the boys?
No, and that's not me. Like, I want to go out there and I'm trying to win men's league. I want the championship. But, yeah, Foxy, great guy. Still talk to him. Unbelievable player.
Hey, let me, you mentioned the way that Gerard Gallant handled, coming in New York, taking over the club, not appointing a captain. And we've had a lot of conversations. I mean, listen, big picture in Winnipeg, there are expected to be some significant changes, and you've got a number of younger players that seem to be ready to maybe have a bigger role in that leadership group, if you will. What was the message from Gerard Gallant when they didn't name a captain, and what did that do for a team as well? Maybe some guys that wouldn't normally have had the opportunity to be wearing a letter or be part of that leadership group to kind of grow it and bring some other players in from your perspective.
I mean, I think from a coach coming in, I think he wanted to learn his players. I wouldn't be surprised if they named somebody the following season. I think he wanted to learn the guys, know who was the right fit for himself, and I think he's done a hell of a job with that. And like I said, there's probably 3 or 4 guys that can wear that letter, and I think those guys, the leadership group in New York, have done a great job. Even when I was there, I can't speak on now when I'm gone, but obviously things are trending in the right direction for them.
Yeah, well, I mean, everything's coming up Rangers right now. Hey, just what do you remember? I mean, when you're with a team, there's a coaching change, you come in the new year, especially a respected veteran coach like Gerard Gallant. What do you remember about, the first day there, the message with the new coach going forward and kind of establishing his culture and his stamp on the team from day one?
Yeah, like I didn't spend much time with him. I was there just for the training camp, but I mean, the way he approached things was, work hard, compete. It's kind of like the cliche of messages, but how he handled himself, he's very laid back, relaxed, but when it came time to work, he was on top of his things. And like I said, the short time that I was there, you hear tons of good things from him, throughout the league, guys who play with him, you reach out to people who've had him. And the message has always been the same with him. And that's why I think he's found success in kind of everywhere he's gone.
Anthony Bitetto's with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Anthony, I've got to ask you about the Jets. I know you got a lot of friends still in the organization, had a great time here being a part of the club. I'm not sure if you spent much time watching the team. I mean, I think everyone would agree this is a disappointing year. This team has a lot of talent. It did not make the playoffs. And of course, lost Paul Maurice in the year. I mean, what were your observations about the Jets from what you saw? And how surprised were you in December when you heard that Maurice was leaving the team?
Yeah, it was surprising. Coach P was one of, if not the best coaches I've ever had. Had a lot of respect for that man. His track record was phenomenal. And when I signed in Winnipeg, I told my wife, I was like, I don't know what we're getting into. Like, it's not like the big known city to go. And it honestly changed the way I thought about it. I can't say one thing bad about it. The atmosphere there, besides how cold the weather is, there's not much to say about Winnipeg that's negative. I really enjoyed my time there. Good restaurants. The people there are great. But yeah, in terms of this season, sometimes you got to hit a roadblock on the road. You're trying to rebuild. The year before when I was there, or 2 years before now, the focus was get the D better. But Hellebuck went on to win the Vezina that year. I don't think we were that bad as a D group, and I'm just pumping my own tires a little bit. But then you go out, you make some moves, and sometimes you hit a little speed bump. And I'm sure those guys are going to be hungry next year coming in. I'm sure they're going to wind up getting a coach that they feel comfortable with coming in. You see the rumors that Trotzy's in the mix and some other guys, and I have no idea who's it going to be, but I'm sure, the ownership there knows what they're doing, and they'll put somebody in that position to get that team, clicking in the right direction again.
So now we're into the off season. You're of course based out of Nashville, where you played a number of seasons, and you go back there in the off season. But I was saying off air before, oh, were you there for Memorial Day weekend? I'm sure it was nuts. And he says, no, actually, you have your own Memorial Day tradition. Tell us what you did last weekend.
So my Memorial Day tradition, 10th year in a row, is the Indianapolis 500. So I played in the USHL in Indy in 08, 09. And my billets were huge Indy fans. And they were like, come to this race. And I'm like, come to this race? A kid from New York, all they do is turn left and drive fast. Well, like, what's the hype about? So we win the Clark Cup in Indiana. This is 2009. And they're like, why don't you stay a couple extra weeks and come out to the 500? So I call a couple of my buddies, and my buddies are like, sure. So we all go out, and it changed my life on IndyCar. One of the coolest, most fun experiences I've ever had. And I've gone 11 years straight now. I missed one race, and that was when I was in the finals in 2017 with Nashville. But otherwise, every year we go, and it's kind of been a tradition.
Well, a good reason to miss the Indy, that's for sure, playing in the finals. I mean, what's it like there? I mean, I kind of had the same perception of it, but you talk to people that have been to those events, NASCAR as well, and they rave about it. And to be honest, we were there. We did the show for a week when the Super Bowl was in Indianapolis, and we got out to the track in the 500 for the big media party in the event, but obviously there wasn't a race on. I mean, what was it that got you so hooked?
Man, just the atmosphere. They do it, the national anthem, the flyover, like the whole production that they put into it. And then that first lap when those cars come around, you can't explain it. Like you get chills I'm getting chills thinking about it. But the lap, the sound of the car, and then the amount of people that are so excited about one individual event, it's amazing. I mean, there's 300,000+ people there. Everyone's there to have a good time, and it's a blast. The infield's a party. You're having a great time. And like I said, when the weather's great and the cars are running, there's nothing better.
Okay, I have to ask you this, as someone that's been to thousands of events as a fan, what the hell are the logistics like of getting to an event with 300,000 people? I mean, are you parking 2 miles away? Are you like how does that work?
That's exactly right. You literally park 2.5 miles away, and you have to walk into the track. But a lot of people like RV, and there's like RV lots around, so you can spend time closer. Then there's passes that you have RV track inside the actual track, and those people will stay for three days. But yeah, if you're walking 2.5 miles because all the roads are closed. You can't get in there, single file car line. That's about it. But listen, I was the same way, and I was like, there's no way a kid from New York is going to a IndyCar race. Like, what is that? And it changed my life. I'll continue to go on Memorial Day weekend.
Sure, you need a couple tall boys for the couple roadies for the walk in from the car getting to the getting
we
to
got
the
a
gates.
wagon with a cooler.
Well, see, that's a veteran move right there.
Yeah,
I bet you didn't have that in year one, but you sure as hell had it going forward after that. Anthony Bitetto's with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Last time we checked in was right around the start of the pandemic, and you were actually having some fun playing some video games, doing some Twitch streaming. Well, where's that at right now, and what are you playing?
Yeah, so the pandemic was, unfortunate, obviously, and knocked the season down, but it opened some paths for myself in terms of doing some charity work, and we hosted a couple of Fortnite tournaments. Fortnite was a big game then, and for the last 2 years, I haven't really done much streaming. I got back to Nashville, and I was like, you know what, let me do it again. And the outlook was pretty positive, and, people enjoy it. And for me, it's more of just like the social aspect. I get to go out there, play with some buddies, and next, I'm running my mouth to some chat people. People come in, ask me questions. I enjoy it. It's fun for me. It's something to do. And, I hope people, more and more people come in there, and we can grow it a little bit and do some pretty cool events.
Now, are you playing NHL, or are you like do you like the gun games where you get to kill everyone, or what? What's the game like when you are streaming? Or I knew Fortnite was a big one that you really got into a couple of years ago.
Yeah, Fortnite's always a classic. I mean, now people are way too good. The buildings and it's out of control. But the Call of Duty games are a good game. A lot of those battle royale games. But I mean, the classic is still NHL. You can throw on NHL and play with some buddies and try to score goals like I can't in the NHL. But I make me feel better in the video game.
Hey, listen, you got that one that they'll be talking about for years. One of the nicest goals of the season of all from you. It was a great spot. What's up for the summer?
Not much. I got a 1-year-old now, 15 months, so like busy with that.
Oh, keeps you busy, yeah. I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that's for sure. She's great though. Just in Nashville, I'm gonna go out and visit my parents and do a trip down to Florida. But I'm just getting back at it, working out and getting healthy, and then trying to make another crack at the NHL.
Now, I've got to ask you. I mean, obviously, first and foremost, you're focused on continuing your hockey career as long as you can. But you're so much fun to talk to. We've seen how much fun you've had with the streaming and stuff like that. What have you thought much about what you're going to do after you're an active player? Are you thinking? I mean, I think you'd be a natural to get into something where we could hear you talk more, like basically broadcasting, or some of the things like we're doing, or with the experience that you've had as a player at so many different levels and teams, have you thought about maybe being coaching or involved in the game in another way?
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoyed the learning aspect of the game and the teaching aspect. I take, even when I gotten older, I've taken pride in, kind of trying to gear the younger kids into, becoming more pro, someone who's done there, been there, been in all situations. I was, playing a ton, not playing a ton, scratched there, injured. Like I kind of have all these different traits that most people probably didn't have to go through. So in terms of that, yeah, I think coaching could be something that I'll enjoy. But at the same time, like I also like to have fun. So I got to find the mix of that. The broadcasting side might be something I, take a stab out. I got a nice accent, as people call it, but so we'll see, man. Like I said, I enjoy where I'm at right now, and kind of, I don't know how many years I got left, but I'm gonna, try to get back to the NHL, and if not, enjoy hockey and play it as long as possible. But after that, I'm gonna have to work.
Well, I'll tell you what, we've always got a spot for you here on WST if you want to kick it around. And tell you what, if your boys can maybe keep playing the way they did last night, maybe we can talk again about the New York Rangers and the Stanley Cup Finals in a couple of weeks.
I like that. Yeah, even if we a couple of games from now we check back in and make it see how they go. But yeah, I'm always up for that, guys.
Anthony, appreciate it. Lots of love from you, from Jet fans here in the chat. Welcoming you back, and let's do this again soon. I mean, we've always loved chatting with you. It's great to have you back, and we'll enjoy the rest of these Stanley Cup playoffs. Talk to you soon, and hopefully talk more about you in the NHL, but certainly more visits to Winnipeg Sports Talk.
I like it, my man. I appreciate you guys. It was good first time, good first episode. So we'll definitely do more, and I'll come up with some more stories too to share with you.
Cannot wait for them. Anthony, have a great one, man. Thanks so much for doing this.
You too, guys. Take care.
Great stuff with Anthony Bitetto. Could talk to him all day, and what an accent too, huh? I know people were enjoying that in the chat. Big thanks to Anthony, and we'll definitely have him back on the program sometime soon as well. All right, Ken Wiebe's going to be joining us in just a couple minutes from Denver. I'm sure he's hydrating right now. Hope he can get his hands on some Culligan water. Ken, the king of hydration, needs the best. And the best, of course, is Culligan. Hey, they've been the experts in Winnipeg and Manitoba for water services for over 65 years as a family-owned business, and they really have whatever you need. Water softeners, filters, bottled water coolers, whole home systems, and drinking water systems, not to mention citywide water delivery services and commercial and industrial water products and solutions. Pop down and see them at 1200 Sargent Avenue or online at drinkculligan.com. Man, we get a lot of great feedback for all of our sponsors, but I have to say, the folks that pop by Manitoba Battery, we always appreciate you mentioning Winnipeg Sports Talk. They've had great feedback, but man, they've taken great care of our listeners and viewers, and they've got extra hours to help you out right now as we get into spring and summer. Many of you are working on projects after work or on the weekend. Manitoba Battery is going to save you money and save you time on whatever type of battery you need. You're working on a hot rod, you got a golf cart, a boat, a Sea-Doo, whatever. They've got you covered, and you'll save money and save time as opposed to getting to the big box stores. Pop down and see them, 1026 Logan Avenue. Phone them ahead, 783-8787. They'll get whatever you need ready for you to pick up quick and easy, and you can always check out what Donnie and the gang has going on online at manitobabattery.com. And hey, Bomber home opener next week. Royal Sports is ready and expanded Bomber section right now. Not to mention a big soccer section. And a lot of people I saw in the chat talking about that Scotland-Ukraine yesterday. Just a tremendous win for Ukraine and the team with what they've been through. And amazing to see the reaction of the Scottish fans applauding the Ukrainians after the game yesterday. Scotland, Ukraine, Team Canada, all the world soccer teams are there at Royal as well. Not to mention, for players, soccer, softball, baseball, disc golf, tennis, hockey, and of course, bikes and more, all waiting for you at Royal Sports, 750 Pembina Highway, and on the gram at Royal Sports Pembina. Give them a follow for the latest merchandise drops and sales. All right, let's get out to Denver, Colorado. And last seen looking resplendent in his F apparel suit on the post game after game one. It's Ken Wiebe joining us from Denver. Weber, what's up? How are you?
Us, great to be with you. Right down in Larimer Square here. We've got a little bit of Avalanche fever. Don't have the F apparel suit on right now, but it will be locked and loaded and ready to go for the post game hit with Mean Gene Principe and Mark Spector.
Hey, just give us a little idea about where you're at right now. We're seeing the Colorado jerseys up hung behind you. I see Landeskog and whatnot. I guess you're just in an area right around the arena with a lot of excitement about the conference finals that are underway and will continue tonight.
Yeah, yes, sir, Huss. It's Larimer Square right in the heart of downtown. It's about a 8-minute walk from Ball Arena. And the thing is, the sun has not been out since Sunday when we arrived. So folks are enjoying themselves on the patios here, having some lunch. And the one thing that's been a little bit odd, Huss, obviously the atmosphere is fantastic, but because of the 6 o'clock local starts, you just haven't had the same kind of outdoor vibe that we were used to during the Western Conference Final. I would imagine today with the better temperatures, it'll be rocking around the establishments, let's say, around the building. It was pouring rain on game one, so I don't think there were any outdoor viewing parties. But folks in the city and the state are fired up about their Avalanche being back in the Western Conference Final for the first time since 2002.
Well, you know what? It's good. A 6 o'clock start that keeps you out of the dispensaries all day and focused in on the job at hand.
My focus is never lacking.
No doubt. Kenny, listen, before we talk about the skate today and tonight's game, let's go back to a wild game number one. We joked before going in. Listen, I know what the bet is. We're taking the over every single game, but 14 goals, 4 goaltenders, a near comeback by the Oilers after they were down 4. A very interesting start to the game, the series that provided many of the fireworks that we were expecting.
Yeah, Huss, there were there was a lot of dabbing on the proverbial bingo card in game one, and some of the dabs were not appreciated by the head coaches when it comes to the defending element. But yeah, it was a really fun game. The superstars were shining for both teams. Obviously, the Avalanche really took it to the Oilers in the first, I'd say, 35 to 40 minutes. Their cycle game was outstanding. This is how I would put it. The Oilers were playing at a pretty good speed, and the Avalanche were playing at warp speed. And they just kept coming at them in waves. McKinnon was flying, Makar was flying, Nazem Kadri was flying. It was quite a sight to behold. But on a night where they built the lead, the Oilers just didn't go away. It seemed like game one, in a lot of ways, against Calgary in the last round. I mean, they came back strong. And it's funny, Huss, in a game where Connor McDavid, you would say he didn't have his best game, he still had a goal and 2 assists for 3 points. So I think the Oilers will be better today. And I guess, too, I can't ignore the fact that one of those spots on the bingo card was the controversial goal that was allowed to count on the non-offside, the coach's challenge that was the call on the ice was upheld, let me say. But
take us back to that moment. I wanted to ask you about this, so this is a perfect time to do it. You're in the press box. Everyone is there watching the game. You don't have it's not like you've got the replay thing right in front of you. You're seeing what's on. Just take us through what happened, what your initial thoughts were when you saw it, and then obviously how it was explained and what the reaction from your colleagues were in the booth.
Yeah, Huss, I think most people were in agreement that it looked like offside. I mean, in real time, I don't think everyone noticed Nichushkin on the side trying to exit. But as soon as the challenge was made, most people after watching the first replay were like, oh, he didn't clear. That's clearly offside. So I think most people, when the referee came onto the mic and said, the goal will stand and the goal will count. And people were like, whoa, really? What I would say was really impressive, Huss, Stephen Walkham, director of officiating, grabbed a group of reporters that were kind of lingering in that lobby area, hallway at Ball Arena, and showed them and explained it to them what they were seeing and how the call was explained on the ice. So that was a super helpful part. Now, again, in the replay, it would be amazing if the ref could say that on the ice, what's happening in real time when he makes the call. But, I mean, at least they made the effort to explain what was happening there. Here's my take on it, Huss. I understand the rule just fine, but to me, my issue is there's no change of possession. I mean, I understand that Cale Makar has to touch it in the offensive zone, but he was responsible for bringing it into the offensive zone when a player was still in it. So I don't know. I totally understand why the call was made, but to me, that looked like offside. And like I said, I'm not here saying it was the reason the Oilers lost, but it led to 2 goals, one that counted and one on the power play that was given for the failed challenge. So I also love the way that Jay Woodcroft handled it, saying that, sometimes you get a break that doesn't go your way. They understood the ruling. And he said, quite frankly, the Oilers needed to kill off that penalty, and then there's no issue.
I mean, are we this is going to be talked about for years. I mean, that play, and frankly, and many people thought it was karma to the Oilers for the Blake Coleman kicking goal not going in, and whatever. You can take that up with the hockey gods and see whether they were involved in it. But we'll be talking about this for a long time, and I would imagine, in some ways, what I think the question that comes out of this is, what is the definition of possession of the puck?
Right.
I mean, I mentioned this on yesterday's show with Marat, but I'll throw it at you. I think it was Bruce McCurdy was on with Low Tide in Edmonton, and they were talking about it, and he said, well, if that's what our definition of possession, when Connor McDavid is skating end to end with the ice, does he have possession the whole time? Or as he referred it, is it 250 micro possessions when the puck's on his stick and off the stick? And I understand why it's very confusing for average fans. And I'd imagine it was probably pretty confusing for even the Oilers coaching staff.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, their video coach is almost always nails the coach's challenge. So here's one thing I want to add, Huss. If that play had been ruled offside on the ice, if the linesman who sees Nichushkin has not cleared, no one's complaining. Nobody on the Oilers bench is saying, "Oh, you totally got that wrong. Makar had it, or Makar, it went off his stick briefly." You know what I mean? There's no complaints if that goal, or if it's waved off in real time. The Avalanche aren't saying, "Oh, that was obviously onside. Didn't you see what Makar did here?" And to me, here's the other part, Huss. Cale Makar, incredible hockey intelligence. I wrote all about him at Sportsnet.ca today. But Cale himself said he got lucky on the play. And I would also say this too, Huss. If you go back down and drill down on the video, it's not like Makar was looking to his right to wait to touch the puck before Nichushkin clears. He's not even watching where Nichushkin is. And Huss, I'm not even sure he knows he's there, to be honest. He made a great read to step up to steal the puck. He went in. He wanted to go at the net. I don't even know that a lot of people thought initially that he maybe just flipped the puck to himself. It's entirely possible that it just rolled off his stick, and that's to take nothing away from the skill of Cale Makar because he's exceptional. But I'm not sure. I think we're giving him too much credit in order to make it work in terms of what the ruling was. You know what I mean? He definitely waits, but look at his face right here. Perfect angle. He's not looking to see if Nichushkin. I'm not even sure he knows he's there. He's not even looking towards him there. So to me, it looks like the puck just rolls off his stick. It's not like he flipped it to himself. In real time, if you look at Makar, he goes so fast, there's no way he thought about flipping it to himself. So I don't know. It was an interesting play, but again, on a night when 14 are scored, it's not just one play that makes the difference. And here's the other part. The thing that was unfortunate for the Oilers, Huss, in a period they were absolutely dominated in, Zach Hyman just scored 9 seconds earlier.
Exactly.
If you're the Oilers, if you get to the dressing room, what was it, 2-2 at that time, you're doing cartwheels because of how badly you were outplayed in the first 20 minutes of the game. But instead, they gave up a goal quickly, which happened in the game a couple times. And it was interesting. I mean, it just seemed to be such an interesting play in the game. But in real time, I thought it was obviously offside. And like I said, I understand the explanation just fine. I'm just not sure that would have been my interpretation. I have no problem with how the rule was applied, but I still think that's offside.
Yeah, listen, I'm sort of with you as well, but I will give them credit. I thought they did a good job at trying to clearly explain it, although you might not agree with it. This is the rule, and there's been a number of cases similar to that, although probably not as noteworthy as the one. But as you mentioned, it was very costly for Edmonton. Colorado scores on the power play. They get that lead. I felt that the game won for the Oilers' perspective, getting back into it and getting it to 7-6. They felt more in that game that even they did in the Calgary game when they got it to 6-6. Like, what was your takeaways from the way the Oilers got back in the game, as well as from the Avalanche side of things, letting them get back into the game when they had a stranglehold on the game?
Sure, Huss. I mean, in some ways, it reminded me of the Game 5 against the Blues, where they kind of let their opponent. They kind of took their foot off the pedal a little bit, but I don't think they sat back the same way that they did against St. Louis in that third period when they were able to tie the game before the McKinnon goal happened, and then you had the goal by on the back door there by Robert Thomas. So I don't think it was as bad. I don't think they were as loose defensively. To me, there were just some exceptional plays. Like the Draisaitl pass backdoor is absolutely off the charts. I mean, the power play we know is outstanding. So the fact that they were able to get going there, no real surprise. But I mean, JT Compher, classic quote after the game. If we want to win more games in this series, we better tighten up defensively. So I know that Jared Bednar kind of painted a little bit more of a rosy picture and thought there was some bad luck involved. But by today, after watching the video, Bednar was quite frank in saying, "Oh yeah, we're going to need to be better defensively if we want to win this game and continue to go, because both teams are going to be trying to drill down into the details in game 2 here, and we know the Oilers don't want to go down 0-2, and we also know they've done a great job of responding so far in these playoffs after tough starts, and that goes towards Mike Smith as well, whose game ones have. You looked at the numbers yesterday, Huss. They are no good, but his game 2 numbers are exceptional. So. I mean, we know the goaltending battle is key going into this game. The Avalanche can say all that they want about having faith in Pavel Francouz, and we don't doubt that they don't have confidence in him, but these are the facts. Francouz was a part-time starter before, but he didn't, Philip Grubauer had the job last year, and they brought in Darcy Kuemper and gave up a lot to get him, and with all of those things in mind, they were still one of the teams in the Marc-Andre Fleury market. So, I mean, they have confidence, yes, that he can do the job, but I mean, can he do the job for 7 more playoff wins if that's what's required?
They have confidence, but there's degrees of confidence, and I would be with you.
Huss.
I don't think that they think that they're rolling in just a straight up 1-2. What do we know about Kuemper right now in that situation? Because that is massive for what could happen in these next 6 games.
Yeah, 2 quick things on that, Huss. We don't know anything. Jared Bednar is in complete cloak and dagger playoff mode. All we know is he's been ruled out for game 2. We don't know what's happening in terms of. Here's the thing. We've done a lot of research here on the media side, including our friend Frank Saravalli went back and watched that period over. So he takes a shot from Cody Ceci in the mask area. And after that stoppage, he goes to that's where he goes to the bench in the stoppage. Doesn't come out because they're still on the power play. But we think it could, again, you never know if it's a concussion. But what we do know is in the series of events, that could have easily been the case. Also, he was asked flat out by reporters if it was anything related to the eye injury in round 1 with the stick in the eye accidentally from Ryan Johansson. He said he wouldn't get into it. So still a bit of a mystery. But here's the other part, Huss. Darcy Kuemper has had some strong moments, but he hasn't been regular season Darcy Kuemper. He was 904 going into game 1. And he still gave up 3 goals in a short amount of time. So, again, not saying he was at fault or they were bad goals, but he hasn't been playing at a Vezina level during the year. So a lot of people are saying the reason they have confidence, there isn't necessarily going to be a big drop-off when you put in Pavel Francouz based on the fact that Kuemper wasn't actually maybe at his A game for a good chunk of the playoffs, especially against the St. Louis Blues.
Ken Weaves with us with Sportsnet. Kenny and Rennie on boots on the ground in Denver, getting ready for Game 2 of the Western Conference Final tonight. Let's move over to the Oilers.
Sure.
They've been in this situation before, but as we've mentioned, they've sort of moved up a weight class, taken on the beasts of the Western Conference right now. It starts with Mike Smith giving even average NHL goaltending would be a nice improvement. I think he'll need to be a lot better than that to win in tonight's game. What did you hear from Jay Woodcroft earlier today, and how might things look different for the Oilers looking to get back in this series and even up at 1?
Yeah, Jay has been sort of the picture of confidence throughout here, and I like the way he's handled his media availabilities. I mean, he didn't necessarily agree on, Mark Spector was asking about, the bounce back is in your DNA. Well, it's not really in the DNA, but then he went around to say, well, we've done a nice job of responding, which was the whole premise of the question. In terms of the lineup, I know he went to Evander Kane at times with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl in that third period for sure. It looks like based on the morning skate that's how they will probably start here this evening. And I think that's a great call, Huss. What the Avalanche did in terms of going in the head-to-head, they put Nichushkin on that top line, knowing how defensively conscientious he is, and he's got that big body. So what you need to do against Cale Makar, not a lot of guys can keep up with him, but you need to get bumps on him and get physical with him when you can. So having Evander Kane be the first guy on the forecheck, that's something that Kane himself mentioned this morning. We need to be more physical on Cale Makar. And when he was using we in that situation, he meant himself. I mean, if others can get there, no problem. But he's going to be the guy responsible for getting a bunch of those bumps on him. And he's such a big, strong physical power forward that's one of the areas that the Oilers feel that they can do a better job in Game 2 here.
Ken, what did you think of the game last night? What a performance by the Rangers. Remo pointed out Justin Bourne's tweet yesterday. We were talking about this game, and I think it was almost deja vu thinking back to last year. The Jets had swept the Oilers. They had the full week to get ready to practice, to be rested, and they're going into Game 1 against Montreal, who's just battled back and had 7 hard games and won. Yeah. And of course, we know what happened in that game and in the series. Apparently, the last 7 times that's happened, the team that went to 7 has won Game 1 against the team that just won 4. So we stayed away from the single game at total last night. All that being said, man, the Rangers looked even better. Anthony Bitetto was just on with us, and he thought that was the best game that they'd played in the entire playoffs. And I thought Vasilevsky was strong. Like, he made a lot of great saves. But, man, their ability to whip that puck across the seam and get wide open nets for one-timers was something else. That was a real statement game by the New York Rangers. What were your takeaways from Game 1?
Yeah, 2018 vibes, Huss. Western Conference Final vibes after the Jets went on the road in Game 7 against Nashville and came out flying out of the gate in Game 1 with the Mark Scheifele drop pass to Dustin Byfuglien 65 seconds in for the slapper from the blue line to me. So you're not concerned about Game 1. You're concerned, depending on how long the series goes, if you're the New York Rangers. But they played that one on adrenaline. John Cooper's been saying everywhere that, there were some concerns about his team being flat in the opener. They were flat in a lot of areas, but you got to give full credit to the Rangers. The kid line was absolutely phenomenal in the game yesterday. Philip Hedl, man, what a week he's having in terms of this kind of breakout playoff situation. Shesterkin's solid. Their team has been playing very well, and we talked about it the other day on our preview show, Huss. The bread man needs to start delivering, and that was a big goal for him. And boy, oh boy, Chris Kreider, what a time to get hot for a guy who'd been pretty quiet. A big Game 7 and then a big Game 1. When Kreider's going, not a lot of guys. We talk about power forwards with Evander Kane. Chris Kreider's got that exceptional speed and power game as well. And we know the Lightning have a good defense core, but he could give some people some problems if he gets himself on a roll. And man, oh man, Mika Zibanejad, Huss, what a playoffs he's having. Just been absolutely dynamic as the first line center down the middle there. He's been absolutely tremendous.
Hey, Kreider scored 52 this year.
Yeah.
Over under 45 scored within 1 foot of the blue paint.
It's under, but not by much.
Not by much. Exactly right. We had a fun conversation trying to figure that one out yesterday, watching the game going forward. Ken Weaves with us in Denver. Ken, I mean, listen, I know you're covering this series for Sportsnet, but you've always got your ears on the ground as to what's going on with the Winnipeg Jets. Pierre-Luc Dubois and Adam Lowry, and the other players that were participating in the World Championships finished that going over. But the head coaching search still at the top of the list, and I'm sure that's something that people are asking you about as well on Press Row out there in Denver. What's the scuttlebutt about the Jets right now, and have you heard anything more on the Winnipeg Jets coaching search?
Yeah, Huss, the Trotz watch is still kind of going at the snail's pace, but that's by design. Barry Trotz taking his time. We talked about this last week, I believe, Huss. If this is potentially Barry's last head coaching job, and we're not saying it necessarily is, but it may be. So if that's the case, he wants to be sure that the situation is right for him. It's interesting. I said this before, and I will stand by it. I don't think there is a front runner that has emerged, but that also means the Jets are still very much in the equation. One of the interesting things around the rink is that it sounded like the Jets were also interested in talking with Rick Tocchet, but not sure if that's going to happen or not. We know that Tocchet's, a name in demand in some other areas as well. So not a lot of clarity, Huss, is the concise answer, but things still sort of sorting themselves out. And now too, with the Jets management is at the combine and everything else. This is just something that's still going to take a little bit of time. We know the Panthers are still deciding what's happening with Andrew Brunette, unless something's happened in the 1 hour since I've been left the rink here. But I think there will be, we said this before. Everyone wants to happen in real time. I think this will happen in the next 2 weeks, maybe, but it's one of those things where I think it may happen before the Stanley Cup final, but it definitely needs to happen. Not definitely, but I would expect it before the draft, and quite likely it happens before the Stanley Cup final. There's always one of those kind of news embargo kind of situations where the league would like all the focus to be on the Stanley Cup final. So the teams that are looking for coaches, I know a lot of them would like to have it done maybe before game one. If it can't happen, end of June probably is what we're looking at here. But yes, not a lot of clarity, but still a lot of discussions happening.
Yeah, and from Trotz's perspective, I mean, he's speaking with the people that he needs to speak to and considering what he needs to do. And it really does seem, I'm not sure whether you share this opinion, that almost everything else in the coaching market with a number of jobs open is sort of on hold right now till they feel what the number one choice of many teams decides to do.
Yeah, a little domino effect special, Huss, for sure. But will Barry be the first domino? Now that's what the other situation is. And if you're one of those teams that's maybe on the periphery and not a front runner, do they go to a plan B to ensure they don't miss out on both Trotz and their plan B? Now that would be the other situation to kind of keep an eye on. But I think that what we know about Barry Trotz is that there's a reason he's in demand. And I think, quite frankly, most of the other candidates are going to have to wait and decide to see what happens in terms of what Trotz decides before they try to get the chair, before the musical chair's music comes to a screeching halt.
Hey, what do you think the chances that Maurice is behind a bench next year?
I would say moderate to fair. I would like to say good, and I still think there is a good chance he'll be on a bench before next season is over. I'd feel much more confident saying Maurice will be on a bench before next season is over, but I do think there's still a steadfast chance that he would be in the mix. I've heard he could be in the mix for Philadelphia. Dallas is a team I've heard a little bit about. I know, somebody had reported Vegas was maybe talking to him as well. And John Morosi actually mentioned the Detroit Red Wings as a possibility as well, Huss. So, I mean, we'll monitor things closely. I think Paul is feeling probably refreshed after a time where, we know it was an emotional time when he stepped away. We know he had a little bit of burnout, but I think that we might see Paul Maurice working in the media in the fall and maybe be one of those guys that's getting calls to hop back behind the bench, maybe when an opening or two may happen early on in the season, perhaps.
I'd totally be there for Maurice getting back on a panel.
Sure.
I mean,
yes.
Listen, I jokingly say I miss Maurice just for, the stuff that he gives us before and after games. Yeah. And I mean, hockey's better with him in front of a microphone. A little looser Indeed. Maurice, able to talk about everything as part of a job where you have to do that, might be even better for hockey fans. Hey, speaking of coaches and GMs, One other local story that I wanted to hit with you, I was going to talk about it later, but while we've got you here,
Sure.
we talked about the disappointing end of the season for the Winnipeg Ice, but the accolades continue to come in for members of the organization. Matt Cockle gets General Manager of the Year for the Winnipeg Ice. James Patrick, Head Coach of the Year, the Western Hockey League. A phenomenal season with a very bright future, especially next year. But, kudos are due for both of those guys that did a pretty great job, considering I think everyone knew this team had the ability to be a very good team this year. I don't think people were expecting them to be near the top of the CHL rankings for the majority of the season, despite the unfortunate end in the East Final.
Yeah, bang on, Hassan. Well said. I mean, Sean and I were fortunate to have both guys on. I mean, we had James on before the series playoffs started and Matt Cockle on one of our preview shows. And just two guys that have done an exceptional job building this program. I mean, unfortunately, a lot of people are just getting on the old bandwagon now and see this finished product and say, holy smokes, these guys are unbelievable. But those guys had to work through some lean years, Huss, before they got to Winnipeg. They worked really hard at establishing a great culture around that team. And you're right. I mean, the best is probably still yet to come for that group. And we know there would be some disappointment in how abrupt things ended for them. But that is an exceptional accomplishment for a young team. And they've got the potential to go even further next year with a little bit more experience, having gone through this playoff run. And those two gentlemen that you mentioned, I mean, Matt Cockle, he always praises his staff, but Matt's done a great job in the GM role. And James is an exceptional head coach, really smart hockey guy. And I mean, to me, I think James wants to be back behind the ice bench and sort of, push this thing through. But I could see James being a guy that would be under NHL consideration for a head coaching job in the not too distant future, depending on if that is something he wanted to do down the road. But like you mentioned, accolades well deserved. And I would say both those guys are still hungry to take that next step and beyond moving forward.
Hey, Weber, before we go, nobody dominates their time away from the rink on the road like you. Did you get to the ballpark yesterday? Fill us in on what you've been doing outside of all the strenuous lifting you've been doing for Sportsnet.ca.
Well, Huss, I was going to say to you, yesterday I was working on the Makar column, but here's how it unfolded. Terrible timing for the Rockies scheduling this week. Day games on both days where the day games were not scheduled very well. They're on the game nights. They had night games, but because of the rain on Tuesday, I'm getting my days mixed up here. It's that time in the playoffs. They had a rain out, so it meant a doubleheader yesterday. As I was finishing my Cale Makar column yesterday, Huss, I look at the box score, and in the right-hand corner, it flashes no hitter. And I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. There's a no hitter happening. I'm 5 minutes from the ballpark. I've never seen one. Ace Walker is the closest thing I've seen with the Gold Eyes, a one hitter. But by the time I had sent a text to some of the other reporters, the no hitter had been broken up. So we ensured that we got to game 2 of the doubleheader. We missed out on Randall Grichuk coming in to pitch the ninth inning in the opener, but we were able to get to the game. It's a fabulous ballpark. Home runs were flying out there like nobody's business. We did not stay for the walk-off ending because there were dinner plans, but any afternoon inside a ballpark at the minor league or major league level, Huss, is an absolute bonus. And people would joke about the maximization. I was looking for a Guns N' Roses concert in a nearby city or town, but no concerts on the horizon. I had a great meal at Osteria Marco, one of the great Italian restaurants here in Colorado, with a couple of colleagues. So,
I was going to ask you where you went. I'm like, what are you talking about? You don't leave games early to go to Arby's. I mean, there had to be.
No, Huss, I know it is. I mean, this is going to sound very sad.
You can order chicken fingers and fries anywhere.
I like to eat a little better than that, mostly, Huss. Here's the thing. I'm embarrassed to say this. It was cold yesterday afternoon. It was a whopping 54 degrees, windy. If it were today and it was sunny and in the 70s, there's no chance I would have left. But let's just say it was a group decision. I wasn't the one leading the charge, but it was a team choice, and I have to stick with the team, Huss. You know, I'm a team player.
Well, you are. And by the way, I don't know who we need to talk to down there, but
how do you like the ambient noise here?
Well, it's been great. We thought you were going to get run over by a backloader for the first 10 minutes of it. I mean, you pulled it through.
We go to great lengths, Huss. We go to great lengths to make this hit happen every single week.
Whoever is manufacturing all those damn Colorado lows, tell them to keep them to themselves. We've had about enough at this point.
Exactly. Let's get the nice weather out. I heard the rain is finally suspending operations, or
yeah, the rain suspended operations. It's gusting to about 60 or 70 right now, though, and perfect. It's cold, and I think it's going down to 2 tonight. So you're not missing too much. It's not prime Manitoba golf tour weather, just like this.
It's a slow start for the tour, Huss, but the June and July and August are going to be exceptional.
Hey, just quickly before we go, fill people in on what you've got coming up, what you're doing today, where they can read the content, and when you might reappear on the tube like you did late night when I was finishing up my evening 2 nights ago.
Yes, I appreciate the text and the exposure, Huss. Good news. Mean Gene and myself and Mark Spector will be live after the game as well here tonight. We've got Mark Spector and I have a pre-game notebook for your reading pleasure, and if those folks missed the Makar feature, it was a fun story to do. This guy's an exceptional story, Us. At a time where so many people are in a rush to get to the NHL, this is a guy, Cale Makar, who said to the Avalanche who wanted to sign him, "No, I'm not ready. I need one more year." And that's what he did. He went back, dominated at the collegiate level, came in the playoffs, and then won the Calder Trophy. So exceptional play. And you just hear people talk about how humble he is, and how he's playing is goes without saying. But definitely going to be a fun series, and Huss, can't wait for this one tonight. And let me tell you, Hockey Night in Canada on a Saturday night in Edmonton in June. You can sign me up. I'm fired up to be around the arena. We know the people will be jazzed. We know what it was like in 2018 in Winnipeg for that series, and
a lot more if they can get the win tonight. I will tell you that much.
No, the series needs some tension, Huss, right? And the tension would come if the Oilers can win. So, man, oh man, it's going to be awesome. And I also have to say this, and I said this the other day to Sean. Ball Arena, one of the top 3 to 4 atmospheres in any of the American buildings. It was absolutely jumping the other night. There were some tense moments when it got to 7-6, but when Landeskog pumped in that empty netter, Paul Bissonnette put it up on the old Twitter machine, I think yesterday. Boy, oh boy, the place was absolutely going bonkers. And Huss, it was Flashback City. It wasn't a whiteout, but they had the white pom-poms that were at the original Jets whiteouts. The place was going absolutely bonkers, and it's just a treat to be here to cover this exceptional series between 2 entertaining teams.
We'll look forward to your reports tonight, and of course, catch up next week. Travel safely, enjoy the game, and thanks for doing this, Kenny.
Yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate you having me. Shout out to all the commenters, and also too, how great on you getting the Mike McIntyre European German tour stop, and now Aaron Cockrell -2 today. I think tied for 10th was the last that I saw.
Beautiful.
So, good to see. And
RBC Canadian Open. We're going to be talking some golf actually right now with Mr. Dubs. They want to find out what's going on with this Live Golf Tour, a little bit the Memorial, and of course RBC Canadian Open next week. Have a good one, Weber. Thanks for doing this.
Cheers, Huss. Thanks for having me. Have a great day, my man.
All right, great stuff. We are going to get to a little golf talk here on the program. Of course, every time we talk golf, we do it for our friends over at Breezy Bend Country Club. If you're thinking about a great long-term home for you and your family, talk to Corey over there about getting on the waiting list and making Breezy your home base for years to come. Incredible course improvements, new practice facilities, great junior women's golf programs, and an amazing social scene as well. Find out more online at breezybend.ca. Hey, I'm looking forward to a Bomber season. Of course, the home opener is next week. We'll get to a Princess Auto Bomber report from practice a little bit later on. But our friends at Knott, big sponsors of the Bombers. I might have a couple spots in the Loge for next week's home opener. Make sure you pay attention to the program next week. And if you're looking for a new vehicle, what are you waiting for? Why not get into the car of your dreams at a great price with the help of the Knott team? Pop down and see them at Waverly and McGillivray. or visit them online at not.ca. And with Dubsy coming in, I wish we were live in person because I could give him a cheers with a delicious little brown jug. We saw my guy Patrick Mahomes get a little swing juice in him last night in the match and start doing a lot better. Of course, if you're in Winnipeg, you want the best beer that comes from this city. That, of course, is Little Brown Jug. They've got a brand new cider for the summer and some other great new products as well, including the Queer Beer, Saison, Hefeweizen, and the Folk Fest Lager. And, of course, Little Brown Jug will be at the Folk Fest as well coming up in a few weeks here in Winnipeg. Pop down and see him at the Brewery and Tap Room on William Avenue, or get the great taste of Little Brown Jug at your favorite beer store. And of course, you can also order online at littlebrownjug.ca. All right. I'm really excited for this conversation. Always love having Dubs Anderson on the show. But there's some crazy, crazy things going on in the world of golf, and big tournaments as well, but big things happening off the grid. And let's welcome in, speaking of grids, you often see him on Sports Grid, along with my guy Gabe Morency and Cam Stewart. Gubs, we were missing you big time when I hooked up with those jokers down in Vegas. We were one individual short of the perfect dream team for some good times in Sin City.
And, mate, I'm a couple of French fries short of a Happy Meal, so it would have been a dangerous combination. Me on a night out down there in Sin City, Hustler, I don't know how that's going to end, especially with good company like you boys, but it looked like a fantastic time. What a fantastic time it is in sports, in golf. We got so much going on. I tell you what, the Stanley Cup playoffs, that's got my attention. The NBA finals, but here on the PGA Tour, the Live Saudi Golf League, the RBC Canadian Open, the US Open only 2 weeks away. I said, Sham, wow, what a time to be alive. What a time to talk some golf.
No doubt. Well, let's talk about the Saudi thing and the Live, because that has been the biggest story. And it's a huge story in sports, period. I mean, when you have a dominant tour like the PGA being threatened and now losing some of their top players, I mean, it's going to get headlines. But the real headline grabber was Dustin Johnson on that list. 3 months afterwards, he put out a pretty clear statement that he was sticking with the PGA Tour. Dubs, first of all, what was your reaction when you saw the names on the list? And maybe start off with DJ as to how surprising one of the top players in the world would forgo playing in North America, his potential legacy, for a fat bag of cash.
Look, I mean, in terms of the field, you take DJ away from it, and it's not a strong field. I mean, it would hardly qualify for a Champions Tour event. Some of these guys, like, they haven't been relevant in, 10, 20-plus years. I mean, Louis Oosthuizen and DJ, the only two guys inside that top 20. For DJ, I mean, I hate to call him a sellout, but it is what it is. I mean, he is chasing the bag, and you can imagine the money that's been thrown at him. They're talking between $100 and $130 million. And look, DJ, he's only 37 years of age, but maybe he set out and accomplished everything he had to. He got to world number one. He's won a Masters. He's married to Paulina Gretzky. What an achievement that is. 24-time winner on the PGA Tour. He's made over $75 million in career earnings. Now, for all these guys out there playing on the PGA Tour, it's not about winning majors and chasing legacy. Some of them, it's just a job. They're very good at it. So why not? I mean, you look at what he's got to go up against here. 47 other guys, 54 whole events. He's only going to play 8 times a year. He's going to make way much more playing in those 8 events than out here on the PGA Tour, struggling to even make cuts. And look, from what I've seen the last 12 months, I don't think DJ is all focused on winning a lot of golf tournaments. I think maybe he's happy just collecting the bag, showing up. If his best stuff turns up, happy days. If not, he couldn't care less. I mean, he hasn't won since that Masters, more than 2 years ago. So I totally get it. The curveball was that he told us, I'm not about it. I'm all in on the PGA Tour. Surprise, surprise. Can you blame him? And remember that banger from back in the day, Hustler? It's only in the beginning. Mate, what a way. It sounded much better than Dubsy seen it, but this is a wake-up call for the PGA Tour. And you look at some of the events we're playing for this week, the Memorial, Jack's Place, the Milkshakes bring all the boys to the yard. I mean, it's half the prize pool of going over to London we're going to see next week. So some of these guys, I'm not shocked. Taylor Gooch, another guy, a young guy, just a recent winner on the PGA Tour. Chase the bag, boys. Why not? Some of the amateurs, Hustler, $250K just for showing up. I know where I'd be going.
I heard Chase Koepka's getting $6 million to come over, maybe just because of his last name.
Chase Koepka, there you go. I've seen Chase in action. He can play, but I mean, talk about playing off that brother's last name. But look, I question the longevity of it. Obviously, they've got a lot of money pumping it in from the back end, but for me, it's going to come down to broadcast? Are they going to be able to bring eyeballs on it? Because look, if it goes for a year, 2 years, it's very much got that feel of an exhibition match. Don't get me started. We saw one of those yesterday down there in Las Vegas. It's a non-event, Hustler. I mean, I'd rather watch the guys at the country club on a Saturday afternoon after, putting down 10 White Claws. That's how much interest I've got in this one. But it is what it is. The PGA Tour, they're not going to be too happy. And do they have a leg to stand on? Players are now subject to disciplinary action. What does that mean? I mean, they're not going to be banned from the US Open in 2 weeks. So where do they go? I mean, in the past, they've been allowed to play any tour they want, and now they're not. They're contractors. They're not on a salary. If they miss cuts, they're not getting paid. I mean, everyone talks about they're spoiled brats. They get paid so much. Yes, they're well looked after, especially the top 20 in the world. But look at some of these other guys, like a Kevin Stadler, the smallest son of the great Craig Stadler. What's he made? $6,000 this season on the PGA Tour. A lot of guys are out there struggling to make a career in golf. Don't get me started about the poor caddies. So it's a lot of opportunities for a lot of young guys. I see that side of the argument. I'm not behind sports washing in any way. All these other sports are doing it. The F1 goes over there, the tennis, the horse racing, but it's a sign of the times, and I totally get it for some of these big names. And there's still 5 spots open. Mickelson could be one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I think we all expect Phil to be that other guy that wasn't officially on that list, and that's a whole bigger story with the book coming out and everything that he's dealing with behind the scenes. Dubs, is there a potential? I mean, we know where the PGA stands on this, and they would love to do everything they can to prevent this from succeeding and going forward. And maybe the most effective way to do that would be to prevent participation in the major championships, which they don't control. Is that realistic? I mean, is there the potential that the guys that went over won't be invited to Augusta if they qualify, or the PGA Championship, or the R&A?
So the PGA Championship is the one that's got the closest ties with the PGA Tour, where they can say, no, absolutely, to play in that championship, you've got to be a member. To be a member, you've got to get it through being on the PGA Tour, at least for these guys anyway. But I don't see that being a reality. I mean, more's going to come to the front here as this goes on. And I know for a lot of these other golfers, they're sitting back this week saying, hey, let's see how this one plays out. If they don't do anything to DJ or what, slap a 6-tournament ban on him, why not? Why not do it? Miss out on what? The Barbasol Classic? Who cares when you can make that kind of cheddar? So I'm very interested to see the stance the PGA Tour takes. For me, I really don't see how they can stonewall these guys from at least playing in the major championships. And I think for all these guys who are partaking in that first event, they're owning all the consequences. Okay, if I'm going to be suspended, if I'm going to be blacklisted playing from the PGA Tour, so be it. And for most of the guys, they're over that 40-year mark, which is, the golden age on the PGA Tour. They're happy with it. And that's why we're seeing a lot of foreign players. I mean, some of the names in this thing, Richard Bland, Matty Jones, Martin Keimer, Lee Westwood, talk about yesterday's heroes.
Yeah, well, I mean, Sergio's in there as well. Well, while you're bringing that up, Ian Poulter as well, far more of the bigger names, at least, were coming from Europe. Why do you think that is, and what does this do to the DP European Tour going forward? How much of a threat is this to Europe before it really affects the PGA Tour here in North America?
Mate, very good point. Like some of these other international tours are already struggling. You think the PGA Tour is doing it tough. The DP World Tour is going to take a massive blow from this, and they're in cahoots with the PGA Tour now. I mean, the Asian Tour, I think they're more closely aligned with the Live Golf League. So I think it's going to have, a major effect, especially down, at some of the weaker events that in terms of field strength, they're not going to be great. But for the foreign guys, I mean, they're sick of traveling. They don't want to leave, the UK to come over to the States, especially if they're not based here down in Florida. So why not make more money for little investment? It's a no-brainer for them. They're not tied here with the PGA Tour. And for the PGA Tour, a lot of these young guys, they looked up and it's Tiger Woods. We're chasing legacy. But I turn it to, 3 or 4 years away. If the big cat's not around, some of these young guys are like, okay, majors are great, but why would I not go do this? And I can make X amount of dollars. It's a no-brainer for them. So legacy is one thing. Not all these guys are chasing it.
Dubs Anderson with us talking about the Live Golf Tour and what this means for the world of golf. At the same time, we got a hell of a field right now for Jack's tourney in Memorial. You were right. The milkshake and the legend of the Golden Bear does bring an incredible group out. And just checking out the top of the leaderboard, Our guy, Cam Smith, great start. He's sort of been up and down a little bit lately. I'm on him this week. And Cameron Young, after that great performance at the PGA, right in the mix as well. And of course, Will Zalatoris, he's one shot off the lead. Will gets so close, just the putter does not do him in favors in the toughest times. What is it about the Memorial, though? This course, the history of it, Jack Nicklaus that brings out and often puts together some of the best action of the year outside of the major championships.
Yeah, I mean, obviously just being Jack Nicklaus, that's going to bring all the biggest names to the tournament. It's a great golf course, 2 weeks out from the next major, so it's somewhat usually the final tune-up. You look at all the past winners here, it's all your heavy hitters, Cantlays, John Rahms, DeChambeaus, and this is where John Rahm was famously DQ'd, forced to withdraw, I should say, last year after 54 holes in the lead. He was never going to lose that event. They can't turn and say, mate, you've got the old COVID, see you later. So Rahm's going to be motivated coming back into this one, but fantastic leaderboard. Cameron Young's up top, Luke Liss, Cam Smith, the Aussie mullet. I actually wasn't big on Cam Smith. I'm big on course history. He's played here 6 times before. He's only made the cut 2 of those, but here he is. I mean, all the short game in the world. A Canadian I'm big on. I think I harped on about him last time coming up here, Corey Connors. This guy is built for the tougher golf courses on the biggest stages. He's only got 1 win to his name, but the second win is coming. I grabbed a slice of him at 50-1. And for my young Willie Zalatoris, I mean, he needs the old protein powder with the milkshakes this week, but that putting stroke, that could haunt houses, mate. We know what we saw at that Sunday at the PGA Championship. He keeps putting himself in the mix, but for me, now it's scar tissue. We know how good he is, tee to green, but the putter has to start showing up. And right now, he gets more uncomfortable the closer he gets to the hole. I think the breakthrough win will come, but a bit of situational awareness. I love him when he's 3 or 4 shots back on a Sunday afternoon when he can freewheel it, and he's not the guy up top. He's not comfortable being that man. It's the same for Rory McIlroy. Doesn't like being that guy. Not everyone's all about it.
Dubs, that little tip you gave out for Corey Connors is looking pretty good right now. He's 4 under, 1 shot back through 9 holes, and still has another 9 to maybe get up to the top of the leaderboard. So hope you maybe had a little first-round leader sprinkle on him as well. He's a heck of a player.
Heck of a player. He's a ball striker, and that's going to be rewarded this week. And Hustler, you know how I do, mate. Of course I champion all my best bets. You never hear about the dud bets, though, the ones that don't get in contention. Dubsy just gives the old highlight reel, if you will. So if Corey Connors gets in the mix, you're going to hear about it on Sunday afternoon. If not, absolutely crickets.
Dubs, next week, RBC Canadian Open next week. When are we going to get you north of the border to come join us here for one of those big events? Don't forget about President's Cup in Montreal coming up as well. That will be the party.
Mate, I've been traveling a little too much. I'd love to get up to Toronto. I've only had nothing but a good time. I was meant to be at Memorial this week. I'm meant to be in Vegas next week. And the wife tells me, she goes, no, you've been working too much. You can only do one or the other. She's now the ex-wife. I kid. So, no, I wish I could get up there, mate. It's going to be a great tournament. Roy McIlroy, defending champion. We haven't seen it for the last couple of years. And surprisingly, really strong field. JT's committed. Cameron Smith's going to be up there. So when everyone's talking about the Live Saudi Golf League, this is exactly what we needed for the RBC Canadian Open. Great golf course, great people, and some of the best, I say, sports fans, golf fans, all come from up north, up there in Canada. Great spot. Love what you boys are doing.
Cannot wait, and say hi to our favorite other Canadians, Cam and Gabe, when you hook up with them very soon. Dubs, you're the best. We love having you on the program. Thanks for doing this, and enjoy the action this weekend.
You too, my man. Let's have ourselves a weekend and back some winners.
Let's go. There it is. Follow on Twitter at Dubs Anderson. And if you're familiar with the Sports Grid channel, Dubs is on there all the time, often with our boys Gabe and Cam as well. It's at Mr. Dubsy, on Twitter, MRDUBBSIE. Dubs Anderson with us on Winnipeg Sports Talk. All right, we have to get to a little Blue Bomber practice update, which we'll do at the end of the program. I do want to give a big shout out to Nick and Nikki over at the Nick and Nikki DQ group, wonderful sponsors of ours. And listen, it's not like we have to wait for it to get to be 25 or 30 to get out and get blizzards. I think we know that is the treat 12 months a year. But it sure would be nice to get a little better ice cream weather. That being said, we can still go on any of the 4 Nick and Nikki DQs and try not just a blizzard, but a royal blizzard with a chocolate or peanut butter filling and one of the amazing new stack burgers that are there. Visit them at one of their 4 locations, DQ Niverville, DQ Northgate, DQ Polo Park, and DQ St. Anne's. And if you do need a cake for an upcoming event, you're going to want to hit them up on Instagram at DQ Manitoba. Let them know what you want. They'll customize it, getting ready for you to pick up quick and easy at any of the 4 Nick and Nikki DQs. Hey, great opening week at Assiniboia Downs. Remo and I had a bit of a soft last night. Not a great night after moderately successful the first day. We're going to get back at it next Monday for live racing at Assiniboia Downs. And we're also working on a little bit of a WST listener and viewer night out at the Downs. Of course, you can get out there, find out more on all of what's going on at the track at asdowns.com. And if you do want to bet on our track, as well as horses around the world, get an account over at hpibet.com. And you can wager on the big events throughout the week. And then, of course, on live racing if you're not able to get out to Assiniboia Downs. And hey, a big cheers to our friends over at Canadian Club. The countdown is on to the Blue Bomber home opener. We'll be hanging out at the Princess Auto tailgate party beforehand, but the Canadian Club will be flowing, that's for sure. Up in the North End, the Jim Beam Stillhouse, the Bruegel Rum Hut, as the official spirit of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. And don't forget, Canadian Club and Ginger Ale now available at liquor stores and beer stores in 6-packs throughout the province. All right, we'll get to the Bombers, do a Princess Auto report in a couple minutes, but tonight is the tip-off of the NBA Finals. The Golden State Warriors are back, and the Boston Celtics have survived the East and will take on Steph Curry. And a team that, has some, I don't want to say it's a complete dynasty, but a win now. You'd look at this body of work, and we'd certainly be talking about one of the great teams in history. Let's tee it up right now with Julian Edlow from DraftKings. Always great to welcome back to the program Julian Edlow of DraftKings, who happens to join us from Boston. And Julian, great to talk to you again. I imagine the city that you're in is pretty darn fired up to see the Celtics back in the NBA Finals.
Pretty fired up and pretty surprised given where this team was sitting, 3 games below 500 in January. There hasn't quite been a turnaround in the NBA or in, many sports. I guess it can happen a little bit more in baseball or something like that. But there hasn't been a turnaround, particularly in the NBA, where if you're good, and your talent is winning from the beginning, that I can recall that is like this. So it's surprising to be here. It's welcoming to be here. And people are fired up to have the Celtics back in the finals, first time since 2010. And, to be knocking at the door with this young team so many times and have it get through in a matchup against a team like the Warriors that's getting back there for their 6th time in 8 years.
It's funny you talk about the turnaround this season, and just as you were saying that, it sort of reminded me of the 2019 St. Louis Blues, who were out of the playoffs midway through the season. Jordan Binnington comes up, they go on an absolute tear for half a year, and then go through what was an incredibly difficult road to the playoffs to get to the finals and eventually win it. And I'll be honest, I think maybe what's been the most impressive thing about Boston's playoff run, as opposed to some of the other teams, is the teams that they've gone through. Obviously a 7-gamer against the Heat, but to me, the way they buckled down and was able to beat the defending champion Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo sort of seemed like that was the announcement to everyone that, wait a second, this Celtics team is for real and might be capable of something special.
For sure. And I think the sweep of the Nets was eye-opening as well, because that was kind of the Celtics were larger series favorites against the Heat without home court and against the Bucks than they were against the Nets. That was like a pick'em series, and they come in and sweep that. Now, they swept the 4 games by a total of 18 points. And then we see all these blowouts against the Heat and Bucks one way or the other. So it's been a weird path, but it's been a tough path for the Celtics to get here. And, you can make the argument. I know Memphis had a really good season. Denver was without 2 of its best 3 guys for the majority of the season. And the Mavericks were, a pretty good team with Luka Doncic. You could make the argument that all 3 teams the Celtics beat were better than each of the teams that the Warriors beat to get here. Now, the Warriors just beat the teams in front of them. They didn't wind up getting the Suns. They did what they had to do, didn't even have to play in a game 7. So the Warriors are the Warriors. It's not to take away from them. I still think they're very good. I just think in terms of how they've been tested this postseason, there's no question the Celtics have been much more tested than Golden State so far.
That being said, how similar is this Golden State team to some of the teams we saw raise the trophy earlier? I mean, obviously there's no Kevin Durant anymore. Canadian Andrew Wiggins playing a big play. I mean, they're a favorite in this because of their resume and the history. I thought they might be a bigger favorite, Julian. But give us your thoughts on the favorites going into this series that'll be taken on Boston.
Yeah, so I mean, first in terms of Golden State, it's a weird path that they've had because the first one they won, they were younger, a little bit different of a team, same core. But people forget, Kyrie Irving broke his kneecap in game 1 of that series, and it went deep. Like, if that doesn't happen, maybe that edges things kind of towards the Cavaliers in that series. And then the next year, the Warriors win 73 games, and the Cavs wind up being healthy and winning that series. So who knows how that winds up. And then the next 2 they get is with Kevin Durant, and they're just absolutely dominant. So those ones are a little bit different. And then they get back with Durant, kind of, but he's hurt in that postseason, and then Toronto steals that series. It's just such a weird, collection of what ifs with the Warriors, and now they're back there with the same core but different young players that I like this team more than like the 2015 team that beat the Cavs without Kyrie, but I like this Celtics team a lot too. So for this series, like I've been calling it the nerds versus the books, because you look at some of these analytics, like 538, they're like 80-something% chance the Celtics win the series. That's way out of line. That's ridiculous. There's no way you play the series 5 times, the Celtics win 4 of them. I find that very hard to believe, but yet all the books, between 150 DraftKings has it at and up to 165 for the Warriors to win the series, is telling. And a lot of that is because of their experience and their pedigree. But the Celtics have played in 4 Eastern Conference Finals recently, and they just finally got over the hill. So they have a lot of playoff experience, just no finals experience. And they play their best with their backs against the wall, as we saw in the game 6 in Milwaukee and both of those game 7s. So I lean towards the Celtics in this series because from an X's and O's perspective, they match up very well with the Warriors. So I'll just stick to the basketball and try and not let the experience and whatnot determine who I like. But it's a very close series. It's going to be a very good series. The Celtics, lay plenty of eggs, and the Warriors' experience is going to, if they play like they did down the stretch against Miami in game 7, the Warriors are going to take that game. The Celtics aren't going to win it. I think this is going to be a very back and forth series.
Julian Edlow of DraftKings with us, getting ready for the NBA Finals. Game 1 tips off tonight. Listen, we know why the books make the lines as they do. What's behind these analytic numbers that have the Celtics as such a big favorite?
I don't know. It's all, matchup related, and it factors in, I guess, some regular season games where guys weren't playing. I can't speak to it because I don't totally agree with it. But here we are. I mean, the Celtics, I agree with it to a degree. The Celtics were an analytics team that back in January was telling people, hey, bet this team plus 2,500 to win the Eastern Conference. They have it in them. And the eye test told you no. And then they got it together, and here they are. So, there's something to it. And I think the Celtics are in a very good spot. I just think that analytics put a little bit too much weight on them in this spot. But again, I like the Celtics, so I don't totally disagree.
From a Celtics perspective, what needs to happen for them to win? I mean, is there a player or two that needs to step up their game? And is there one particular matchup that, needs to go Boston's way if they want to end up on the right side of things?
Yeah, I think it's easy. It's an easy answer, but I think star power has to come through. I don't know if this is a question you were going to ask, but people keep asking me, give me a long shot for finals MVP. There is no long shot for finals MVP on the Celtics. Marcus Smart, Al Horford, they can't win. They can't be the best player and the Celtics win this series. I don't even think Jaylen Brown can win the award. I think if you're betting on the Celtics in the series, bet some Tatum finals MVP. He's got to be 38-8 or whatever it is for the Celtics to get through against a team like the Warriors. So the stars have to be good, particularly Tatum. And he's been terrific with his just feel for the game, passing out of those double teams and knowing when to be aggressive and score. And we need to see a lot more of that against the Warriors with no lapses. And then role players have to step up as well. I think Boston's size is an issue for Golden State, and Robert Williams is certainly dinged up. He's questionable. I lean towards him missing game 1. We'll see if he plays or not. But, Horford and Robert Williams using their size in the paint, I think is going to be key. And then there's always just the unexpected, whoever it's going to be. Derek White was great off the bench at the end of that series against Miami. Is he going to be the spark guy? Is it going to be Grant Williams? Who knows? But there are guys that are going to have to come up big. And, it's a long series. Rotations are going to change. Starting lineups could change. And the adjustments are going to be key. An experienced coach in Steve Kerr versus a rookie head coach in Ime Udoka, but a guy that has a lot of experience with San Antonio as an assistant in these situations.
Julian, listen, many of us here are playing lots of DFS, and probably more so hockey and football, but hey, it's the finals, so of course there'll be DFS contests. But as DraftKings has expanded, I know the sportsbook side of things has about 1 million offerings. I mean, we won't get you to go through all of them, but is there a play or two on the board right now that sort of stands out to you that telling your buddies this might be a good thing to consider?
So I think Al Horford is the key guy, both in terms of prop bets and DFS early in the series. And I say that because I think that Robert Williams is either not going to play or play an extremely limited role at the beginning of this series. And the reason I think he may not play, he's questionable. He didn't look like himself late in the Miami series. And if you sit him, then you get to sit him Sunday to Sunday, game 2 Sunday night. You get a full week of rest for that knee, which rest is key for. So I think that Al Horford's going to play a big role. I think that Golden State has issues in the paint. So that's a guy I would consider like captaining from the DFS side for this game, when a lot of people are going to be looking Tatum, Curry, like start at Al Horford maybe, and then work your way down. And in terms of the props, I put it in my article on DK Playbook. I like Al Horford at -160 to score more points in game 1 than Draymond Green. Draymond Green doesn't look to score, and his scoring kind of improves as the series goes on. He gets a little more aggressive. He's a distributor early. Boston's going to give him shots, and Draymond's not going to take them. Whereas Horford might get extra minutes because of the Williams situation, extra paint touches because of the lack of size on Golden State. If you lose it what? On like a Draymond scores 8 and Horford scores 6, and it's right there for you. That's the floor. But what's the ceiling of the bet? Would anybody be surprised if Al Horford scores 18 points tonight and Draymond Green scores 4? Like, that's a very plausible outcome. I think there's a lot more ways you can win it than lose it. You got to suck up the -160 juice, but I think it's a good play.
Julian, thanks so much. Can't wait for tip-off tonight. Really appreciate it. And thanks as well. Always love having the guys from DraftKings on the program.
Yeah, of course. Anytime. Thank you for having me.
All right. Thanks to Julian for coming on today from DraftKings. Yeah, NBA Finals Game 1 tonight between the Celtics and the Warriors. And, of course, Game 2 between the Oilers and the Avalanche. Great night to get out to a Boston Pizza, get the fellas and the gang together, watch the games on the big screen with big sound, and enjoy all your favorites at Boston Pizza, including gourmet pizzas, Boston wings, and, of course, those ice-cold schooners. Let's do a Princess Auto Bomber report before we get to the Coolbet lines for tonight. And just checking in with our good friend Ed Tate. Some good news. Winston Rose out at Blue Bomber practice today, running, making some cuts, walking boot off. He said he's not wearing a helmet, but running. So that's definitely a very positive sight. And Pat Neufeld and Greg Ellingson both back on the field practicing fully with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers today. Of course, Princess Auto, great sponsors of the blue and gold. They'll be doing the tailgate parties before the game at IG Field all season long. And of course, Princess Auto is the place where you'll find the best deals on the most unique assortment of tools and equipment around. Everything you need to complete the projects on your list or start something new is at Princess Auto. You can visit them in store, Panet Road, Portage Avenue West, or shop online 24/7, 365. All right, let's get Remo back in here. Reem, we've got 2 big games tonight. We'll get to the Coolbet lines, but I got to tell you, people have been noticing it in chat today. All-Star Accent Day today on WST.
Yeah, Bitetto, who even referenced it in the conversation, he was great to talk with. So nice of him to hop on for an extended chat, and Dubs Anderson as well. And I see everyone in our chat who's excited that they started following him on Twitter, and he followed many people back. So
Dub loves what's going on here. He loves coming on with us, and he is he's just an absolute beauty.
That was a great line, actually. I was laughing here when he's like, my wife said I had to pick one trip or the other. Well, she's now my ex-wife. Pretty good line.
He's heard a lot of those on the golf course over the years, the old wife jokes and whatnot. Anyways, Dubs is an absolute beauty. Mr. Dubsy on Twitter if you want to give him a follow. And, of course, Anthony Bitetto will have him back on as well later on in the playoffs. All right, let's get to our Coolbet lines before we shut her down for today. We were just talking about the NBA Finals. May as well start right there. The Warriors, a minus 3.5 point favorite for tonight's game. And interestingly enough, the Warriors are only a minus 147 favorite to win the series. I thought that number would be much higher. Boston's plus 120. But Remo, as we just heard from Julian Edlow, there's a lot of analytic data that says the Celtics actually are the pick for this series. And it was interesting him mentioning what they were telling us like earlier in the year when they were 25-1 to win the championship. Now they need 4 more wins to get it done.
Crazy. I'll be honest, like I haven't watched too much NBA playoffs, so I'm dialed in. I think would be, I think you get excited for these teams that are winning multiple championships. We can see it for Tampa, or you want them to lose. Either way, there's some betting interest. So I'm kind of not really a big Celtics guy. So maybe I would roll with Golden State here. Minus 147 seems not bad actually for a dynasty like the Warriors, right?
That's what I think too. But I'll tell you what, I'm just gonna go. I'm calling it right now. This is going to be a 7-gamer, and I'm taking the plus 205 on 7. I just dropped a little sprinkle as we were doing this on that, so I didn't forget to do it before the game. But it's all there if you want to get in on the NBA Finals. And then heading over to the National Hockey League, the Edmonton Oilers plus 147 on the road tonight against the Avalanche with Pavel Francouz in goal. Avalanche minus 167. Hey, if anything, the patterns have told us so far this year in the playoffs is the Oilers bounce back big time from poor first game performances. They did it against the Kings. They certainly did it against Calgary. And I think they have to do this. I was talking to Dusty earlier today. 93% of teams in the conference finals who win the first 2 games win the series. So this is an incredibly important game for the Edmonton Oilers to win tonight. And frankly, Remo, I think they do it. Where are you?
Sure. Yeah, let's go with, if you want to take the dog, you want to hope for the close series, sure. Go with Edmonton. I was kind of on them before, but Colorado seemingly scoring at will. You got so many good players. Maybe I'm on Colorado here. You got the Ball Arena atmosphere. Ken referencing that. What a name, Ball Arena. We did show the video of the pom-poms earlier. I don't know. Roll with either one. I'm not sure. Maybe roll with
either
Edmonton.
one. There's a pick. For you. Remo, Who do you like tonight? Oh, you know what? Roll with either one.
I'm more of a props guy. It seems like if you pick the over on any player points or goals, you're looking to win. The total at 7. Minus 139.
Minus 139 on the over at 7 right now. We will see a 7.5. We will see a 7.5 before this series is over. And to be honest, I'm surprised that we're not seeing that tonight. As far as the series goes, if you do think that the Oilers have it in them to come back and win, plus 335 on the series total, Avalanche minus 455. And then just quickly, the Lightning and Rangers, we sort of were mentioning yesterday that the Lightning did lose game number 1. That might be the time to jump in on them. Lightning plus 103 to win the series. Rangers minus 120 after their first big win at home.
Well, we were saying that if you wanted to get value in the Lightning, wait for them to lose the first game and then bet them. So plus 103 is not bad, but I don't know, maybe the Rangers opening some eyes, and we did see the numbers. We've said them, but the rested team versus the team playing the 7-game series. But this isn't some ordinary team who's rested like Tampa. This is, 2-time Cup champion. So
yeah, and Tampa's favored tomorrow at minus 127 in the game as well. Again, you can check out all these lines over at Coolbet.com. Use the promo code WST on your first deposit for a 100% bonus up to $200.
You like my pick there? Pick whoever you want.
It could go either way.
Go either way.
Maybe go on either side. Is that the most milquetoast lame? That wasn't even an attempt at a pick.
No,
you didn't even couch it. That
wasn't. Well, how about here? How about Makar?
Yeah, give us a proper 2. Let's go.
Makar plus 220 to score. I don't know.
Ooh.
It seems like there's a lot of goals. He's got a lot of them.
Well,
gonna
I
be
would love
playing.
that because Lock Shop, I gave out Makar over 1.5 goals for the series at -125.
He's got one.
He's already got one, so that would be nice. Cash that ticket and get forward. Anyways, all the props are available. McKinnon plus 105 to score. Draisaitl plus 115. McDavid plus 122 at the top of the list.
I've never seen a number this high to score a point. McDavid -769. That's out of control.
And more than 4-1 to not get one.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Though, look at some of these numbers down here. So that's an interesting one. The point props. If you want to score, how about Kadri too? He was decent. Val. What was that? Plus 190 for Kadri or Hyman even. I don't think that's
nice.
Those are terrible.
Listen, Pavel Francouz, I'm going to be on some Oiler props tonight. Zach Hyman plus 190. Evander Kane's plus 154, and it sounds like he's going to be rolling back with the big boys again, so that might be a good look. Anyways, you can go through them all, check it. Bet responsibly if you are going to sprinkle on the game tonight, but it's all there with our friends over at coolbet.com. Tomorrow on the show, Brandon Rowicki's going to join us. We'll have more on the Stanley Cup playoffs, of course, heading into the weekend. And I'm really looking forward to having Gareth Wheeler, who, of course, is the voice of Canada soccer on One Soccer. The match against Iran was canceled due to, I guess, political reasons, but Canada will be playing a friendly against a team they're quite familiar with, Panama. So we'll find out more on the Canadian men's soccer team and what is going on with the lads as they get ready for the World Cup tomorrow. And of course, we'll have the latest on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers training camp heading into the weekend, and hockey as well with the 2 conference championship series now underway, and of course the NBA finals as well. Great show today, man.
Yeah,
lots
I just
to
want
get
to.
to.
Before we go, I just want to hit these couple NFL notes. Sorry, we didn't mention it yesterday. John Madden on the cover of Madden 23.
No brainer.
Yeah, no brainer. Here's the here. I'll pull it up right here. We got the original Madden one, and then this year's all Madden. So going back to the OG, I mean, you can't really get mad about this.
No, I love it, and there's no one that will be jinxed or anything like that.
I was thinking that too. I don't think you can jinx anyone with this. We did have some other retirement news. Ryan Fitzpatrick announcing hanging them up. Great career.
I'll believe that, by the way, when we get to like week 7 or 8 and he's not on a roster or anything like that.
Well, someone's going to get hurt and you can call him up. You know, he can sling the ball.
Absolutely.
It's magic. He's had a great look.
And do I see this? Frank Gore?
Yeah, Frank Gore officially hung him up as well.
Speaking of not believing it till I see it, like when we get to week 1 and Frank Gore is not in the backfield or on the bench of some team, then I believe it. The most durable warrior in the backfield, maybe in NFL history. I love the conversations whether Frank Gore is a Hall of Famer. To me, his longevity, frankly, makes him a Hall of Famer, although he was never the best in the league, really at any point. But the fact that he did it for 16 years at a position where guys usually are in and out in 2 or 3, he has had one of the most incredible careers in NFL history. There's no doubt about it.
And I remember, didn't he have a crazy knee injury as well in college? Yeah,
in Miami,
in Miami. And you thought, okay, he tore it twice, and you thought, oh yeah, this guy's, had such a promising shot, and here he is playing, forever in the NFL and signing a 1-day contract, retiring as a 49er. And speaking of running backs, I was really sad to see this yesterday. Marion Barber, 3, passing away yesterday. He was awesome with the Cowboys, Pro Bowl 2007. And it was very sad to see just another NFL player having difficulties health-wise after their career. And you just see this way too often. And hits to the head, injuries.
Marion Barber was such a stud. With one of the great nicknames in football as well, Marion the Barbarian, and he was an absolute battering ram from the backfield for the Cowboys during his time in the National Football League. So really sad, and that's another one. Jeff Gladney, former first-round pick of the Vikings, died at age 25 last week in a car accident. He was let go under some pretty bad circumstances by the Vikings when he was accused of some sort of a domestic assault, and had resurfaced with the Arizona Cardinals, trying to get his life and his career back on track. And unfortunately, he's gone as well. But the news of yesterday of Marion Barber, I think, caught a lot of people off guard. A very popular player for the Dallas Cowboys during his time in the National Football League. All right, gang. Well, that's going to do it for us. Great job by Michael Remis, and thanks to all of our guests today. Great to have Anthony Bitetto back on the program, Ken Wiebe, the always popular Mr. Dubs Anderson, and Julian Edlow teeing up tonight's Game 1 between the Warriors and the Celtics. Tomorrow, we'll have the latest on the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. We'll talk some NHL playoffs and Jets offseason with Brandon Rowicki, and we'll check in with Canada's men's soccer team and Gareth Wheeler, amongst more. And, of course, you know what Friday means, folks. Marbles. Speaking of marbles, you got to be subscribed to win. Great to see everyone with us. Before you go, make sure you've hit that red subscribe button. And by the way, give us a thumbs up as well to help us spread the channel. That's going to do it for us. Thanks to all the sponsors that make Winnipeg Sports Talk happen each and every day, and all of you for joining us once again. We'll see you tomorrow for a 1 p.m. live edition on YouTube, finishing up with another Winnipeg Sports Talk marble race. This has been the Thursday edition of WST. Enjoy the games tonight, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, my God! Oh! Shut it down! Let's go home!
Thanks for tuning in to Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily. Make sure to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast feed at winnipegsportstalk.com.